Everyone, if you'll please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start our meeting. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Union Township Board of Trustees regular meeting for August 12th, 2021. Let the record show that all three trustees are present tonight. Also present is our fiscal officer, Mr. Ron Campbell. Gentlemen, the first item is approval of minutes. We first have the July 8th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. You've had a chance to review these. If there's no changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Or, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Lowe?
Lowe. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Then we have the July 8th, 2021 zoning meeting minutes. If there's no objections, I'll ask for a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Campbell, next is correspondence. Did you have anything to report tonight?
I have none tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. Tonight, we do have a special presentation. It's the Clean Ohio Green Space Grant from the Cardinal Land Conservancy. And we have Andy Dickerson, who is the Executive Director, I believe. Andy, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me a couple minutes here. I'll try to be brief. I could talk an hour, but I'll just do 5 minutes. So we're, if you guys aren't familiar with Cardinal, we're a nationally accredited land trust headquartered in Milford. We protect farms throughout 7 counties in southwest Ohio. We also protect green space and open space. We're up to about 8,000 acres of protection. Most of that is easements over agricultural land, but we do own 8 properties that we treat as green space where we allow the public to come. So the green space grant is something that in overwhelming support 20 years ago passed by the legislature to put money away. So there's 19 districts in Ohio and they each get approximately $2.2 million a year for green space acquisition projects. So our district, District 10, we compete with Clermont, Clinton, Warren, and Butler counties. So what we have is an opportunity to pursue some of those funds for a project in Union Township. So basically it's a farm, it's over on Round Bottom Road, and it's a family who lost their mom a little while ago, and you know, she always wanted to see the farm stay a farm, and they've been farming it. And they talked to us about purchasing that and operating it as green space. And it's the one next to the recycle center. So the way this grant works, if you're part of, those eligible to ask for green space grant money are municipalities, branches of government, and nonprofits. Because we're a nonprofit, the Ohio Revised Code requires that we seek a letter of resolution of support from local government. And that's why I'm here tonight. It's really, I'm not asking for funding of any kind. It's just letting you know that we're going to apply for funds and compete. Hopefully we'll win, but we never know, and be able to purchase that farm. And the grant, I'm sorry to say, is due September 2nd. So I didn't realize you guys only met once a month, but I was wanting to ask your consideration for a resolution of support for us to apply for the grant.
And you said in your presentation to us in the paperwork that you're also looking to make this, can you expand a little bit on being the regional headquarters and what else you want to do on that?
Well, we're a small nonprofit, so it's going to be our global headquarters. We have 7 staff. There is a house on the property. We're not looking to knock it down, but That's something we lease office space now from Valley View, and this is something that we can make our office. There's storage space there. We have a few tractors. We have a new farm over off of North Bend Road. That's why I'm still in jeans. I was with the vet tonight, our cows, so sorry.
Oh, that's no problem.
But that's where our staff will reside. Or not reside, but come to work every day.
Okay.
And, you know, the fields are more than half the property floods. So, you know, it's prime for restoration. There's a couple endangered species there in the East Fork of the river that I think will score well in the grant and make us competitive. And it's really a decent acquisition project for Cardinal because we don't cover Butler, but we do Hamilton, Warren, Clermont, Clinton, Highland, Adams, Brown. And this place is central to it all.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions?
What are the two endangered species?
One is called a northern mad tom, and the other is a river red horse. It's state listed. They're not federally endangered. They're state endangered.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess my concern would be, we haven't run this by our legal counsel yet, and I would like to do that. I mean, the only way we could get it in by the September 2nd, we'd have to have a special meeting later this month to do that, unless the other trustees want to move forward without having a review. But I think we ought to have it reviewed first, just to make sure that we're okay with the resolution. Gentlemen, how do you feel about it?
I agree.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. It's just kind of short notice.
I don't know what it entails any more than what is in this document on the front, the one-page document, and I'd like to have Larry or our legal counsel look into it. Tell us what if and isn't, what could and couldn't happen.
Mr. Lowe, you doing anything?
Yeah, so, yeah, I've talked with Jeff Corney, not about Cardinal. I actually just recently learned that he's on the board for Cardinal Land Conservancy, but he's the executive director out at Cincinnati Nature Center. So for, I don't know, since I've been trying to learn this job and learn this position, I've been talking to him about, you know, what the township and what green spaces can do together and be strategic growth for that. And anyway, he's brought up Clean Ohio Green Space Grant application before, and so has the county development director, Mike McNamara. So, I mean, I'm aware of the process, that it's essentially the government's, you know, again, for a lot of grant projects like that, it's got to have the approval from, you know, but I don't believe that there's anything that's on the township or committal, and I'm not giving a legal opinion, but I'm sure that Mr. Geis can not give a legal opinion, but can give us some additional background here on what would be able to help this move forward if there is a potential for that.
Are you asking me this evening or whatever moving forward? I mean.
Yeah, what's
I think-
the risk involved? What is the risk involved that you see with the land supporting their application? I mean, it's them coming to us with an application to submit, and it's us supporting their application.
I think it's just a procedural issue on having the resolution approved as a form from Mr. Barbier. And I think that the board could probably do one or two things. They could approve it subject to approval of the law director for that is to form in that, or as Mr. McGraw suggested, you could just schedule a special meeting for that, notice it for this specific purpose, and then take action before the September deadline.
So, is there any-
And that's not a legal opinion.
I know it's not
just
a
a
legal
procedure.
opinion. I mean, it sounds like from what you're stating that, you know, if the board's in agreement with it as to content and with the, with essentially the aspect that it would receive the legal review, which could come after the fact, and if there's an issue with it, then that would stop it, and that would drive a special meeting if the board still wanted to take that forward and have that from the legal opinion. So I believe that there's probably a path forward there, but maybe Mr. Dickerson can can you explain any of the questions or risks that other local governments have had with supporting the grant application? I mean, has there ever been an adverse opinion or?
We did have, oddly enough, is Union Township in Brown County. They sought the legal opinion of the solicitor and were able to turn it around and got a glowing approval from them. The risk on you is nothing. It was put in the Ohio Revised Code really just to let you know what could happen with the funds. Because really, the county park district goes for these funds, and they don't have to let anyone know, because they're part of government.
Okay.
And it's mainly an informational deal.
Well, I'm fine moving forward if someone wants to make a motion and put the caveat that the subject reviewed or legal counsel.
I'd like to have this matter with Cardinal Land Conservancy reviewed by our legal counsel and give us an opinion on it before we proceed putting our signature on it, my signature on it anyway.
I have one other question for you. The ability to have the hike trails and canoe access, that's something that's open, that's the way I read this initiative, that's open to
It'll be open to the public.
so it's
Daylight hours.
nice.
There's a big gap in where you can take out. We work with the Corps to adjust the flow for recreational flows
Okay.
on the East Fork. There's just no place to take out, and it's a dead zone in between Batavia and Milford.
Yeah.
So this kind of splits the difference.
Yeah, and we're familiar, I think, with the Hamilton Safe project that's just up the river from it, familiar with that area, and the fact that there is a lot of flooding, and basically, right now where Hamilton Safe is, that's all the development that is gonna be developed, my understanding, from where that, at least what's remaining there outside of Hamilton Safe, the 30 acres. And is there a junk yard business that it abuts?
There's like a recycling center.
Recycling center, that's
Yeah.
correct.
And Malink Solar and Alternate Energies is right
You
next
got
to
the
it.
link, yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, if, Mr. McGee, if we go the route of having the legal counsel check it, are you okay with having a special meeting later this
Absolutely.
month? Okay. Mr. Logue, are you okay proceeding that way?
well, I mean, I don't know your perspective or your position there, but my position would be to be able to approve the resolution pursuant to the legal counsel's review after the fact before it would be enacted. I don't know if there's what specific modification language that we need for the resolution based on the timelines that we've been on. Because you've got to have the grant application in by September 2nd. Is this the last item to do?
Yeah, and sometimes you have to go to the county.
No,
too.
we have to get both approvals for local. I've got everything
Township and
else.
county?
Yes.
Have you gone to the county yet?
I'm working on getting on their agenda.
Okay.
And this is all subject to you getting the funds to begin with, even if it goes.
Yeah, so and please don't, it's not you guys approving money or,
Right.
this money is not coming to Union Township or Clermont County unless someone goes and gets it. I'm trying to go get it.
And the landowner, as part of their donation, they were going to donate a portion of their funds back to.
It's a bargain sale agreement because there's a 25% match required for the grant funds.
Okay.
And they're willing to do that.
So, Mr. Logue, if we proceed the way you're saying, if there was a change that the legal counsel made, we'd have to still have a special.
Then that would drive a special, so if there's no adverse legal opinion to the resolution as it stands, then there'd be no need for, there'd be the legal signature on it, all the processes get done. Mr. McGee, you would have a legal review over the resolution, it's just coming after the vote. So we're adding a modification to the
I know that.
resolution.
I'm not stupid.
I'm not
I'd
implying.
still like legal counsel to review it before I sign it. Other documents come before us before, and we have legal counsel sign, review it, and give us their opinion on it. And I think it should be needed in this as well as what we have in the past.
in that sense, if Mr. McGraw, if you're on the same page of supporting this now, it can, the motion can carry with our 2 votes, and that can go through legal review, and after that legal review completes, if there's no adverse opinion, Mr. McGee he could sign it, correct? Or would he have to be back in public session to sign that, be a third line on it, be similar to a purchase request? Or
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you're going to do. If you're going to make a motion to approve the resolution subject to the law director's approval of it, and then Mr. McGee votes no, I think he's no on the resolution.
correct, okay.
But if you would vote yes on that, subject to that, then obviously we'll go forward, subject to Mr. Barbier's review of that, or not.
I would just, like I said, I would just like a review of our legal counsel. I think it's needed. This is basically a legal document we're signing, and I think it needs a legal review. A legal review by Mr. Barbier, as we have in the past. And, not that I would agree or disagree, I just would like someone with more knowledge than I have the situation that we're in here with this.
Just a question to the staff for preparation with this one. When, or Mr. Dickerson, when was this submitted to the township, or when did the township receive it? Did we,
Last week?
last week?
Yeah.
Middle weekend of the
It hasn't
week?
been that long ago.
We were just unable to get it over to Mr. Barbier for review, or that's just not always typical for resolutions someone brings us?
Yeah, it'll be up to the trustees to decide that. So they would have to have a meeting for us to decide to do legal review, I believe. But would you be opposed to doing a special meeting just for this, if you have to re-review it?
No, I mean, I'm fine with doing a special meeting. My thoughts are, if we approve it and Mr. Barbier has no adverse legal opinion to it, however, we can hold for potentially a special meeting, opportunity to maybe hear more from the community, which is always excellent for that feedback. My understanding has been part of a strategic green space like this, that it would be a significant win for the community. It's kind of like adding a park access and feature in the township, which is great, that we're not paying for. It's it's protecting the property rights of the landowner, which I'm always for that. So, a lot of times these zoning appeal packages come through, and we support those, which they've gone through their process, but as far as we support those in the aspect of protecting the property right of the owner, so. Maybe someone will speak in public comment tonight and give enough feedback on support of this that would sway that to be brought back up at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Well, I would like then to, Mr. Geis, refer this to our legal counsel. Once they are able to look at it, let's plan on having a special meeting for this purpose only, to come back this month before the deadline and review this and have this up for a vote again. So we'll do it that way, and we'll try to get it done as quick,
Great.
expedited as possible, quick as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
All right.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of good discussion. All right, so we're going to move on to our department reports. And tonight, we have our Fire and Emergency Medical Services, Mr. Chief Stan Dylan.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. For monthly activities for the fire department include 205 fire responses, 478 emergency medical responses. We saw a total of 483 patients and transported 364 to local hospitals. Completed 1,302 hours of training. We're involved in 8 public education details. The firefighters completed 93 fire safety inspections, and we did 3 joint inspections with the Clermont County Building Department. That concludes my report.
Okay. And I'll jump out, and we'll probably have lots of thanks, but thank you for you and your department for participating in the Police Night Out. Some great displays, so thank you. Gentlemen, I'll pause for 1 second. There were 3 pages to the agenda. Does everybody have 3 pages, just to make sure? There was a question earlier. Just to make sure you got all 3 pages. Yeah, just make sure you have everything. Okay. Our next report is from our Police Department, Chief Scott Gaviglia.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. For July 2021, the Communications Center handled approximately 3,500 calls for service for police, fire, and EMS. It was a busy month for public affairs. We had our annual child gun safety class. That was full, and it's pretty popular. We may have to start doing it twice a year. We conducted a neighborhood watch talk at Terrace Ridge. Our Citizens Police Academy starts this month. We might have 1 or 2 spots left. If you're interested, just call the PD, please. I'll have more on the National Night Out next month, but just briefly, I'd like to thank all Township staff, trustees, elected officials for coming, supporting us that night. We'll try and have some numbers for you next month, but it was a really big success. And each year, it's gotten better and bigger with the help of our sponsors and our dedicated staff, and of course, our volunteers. We couldn't do it without them. On the patrol side of things, we took 365 incident reports, investigated 98 crashes, conducted 410 traffic stops, issued 137 citations and 263 warnings, conducted 508 field interviews, made 131 criminal arrests, 112 traffic arrests, and served 182 warrants. The K-9 unit seized approximately 1,166 grams of marijuana, 14 grams of heroin, 112 grams of methamphetamine, 22 grams of cocaine, and about 30 narcotic types pills. To date, the Investigations Division has closed 210 cases, 65 hours of training for the department employees in July, and fuel cost was approaching $10,000, driving about 35,000 miles. That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, any comments or questions?
Thank you, Chief, for all your work, your staff, all our employees, and the staff and the volunteers for the night out here, police night out.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge success. It was really nice weather, and all kinds of
It was a
people
great night. Yeah,
participated.
it was a good night.
Yeah, so-
Not rainy, not blazing hot, and I think it was the most. We'll figure out how many trips the buses made back and forth.
Yeah, and your Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association, I think I got all the words in there.
Yeah.
They do a fantastic job. We
Yeah,
couldn't do it without them, and they're a great group. They did a lot of hard work, and awesome to have that kind of support from them. Of course, all your police officers were there. And, the K-9 demonstration was off the charts. I've never seen so many people watch that. That was really cool. So, really good night. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir.
Very much.
All right, we'll move on to our Service Department. Mr. Matt Taylor, Director.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. In the Cemetery Division, from July 15th through the 31st, 12 burials were performed, generating $6,400. 8 resident graves were purchased, generating $4,400, and 3 non-resident graves were purchased, totaling $4,500. 2 cremation scattering gardens were purchased, generating $1,000. The total amount generated was $18,824. In the Roads Division, a total of 19 work orders were completed on 17 township roads, and staff is currently mowing and trimming the township road right-of-way. And in the parks, staff provided setup and cleanup for the concerts at the Civic Center on July 17th, 24th, 31st, and August 7th. And as everyone else has said, the staff assisted the police department in the setup and cleanup for Police Night Out. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, any comment?
Just thank you to the maintenance department too for putting the tents up and everything at
Yeah.
the park for the police night out. Did a great job. That's a big tent to put up.
Yes.
Keeping all the trash moving? And,
Yes.
Everything was
Lot of
moving, done
corn.
well.
yeah, a lot of corn.
A lot of corn done. Thank you.
A lot of good comments about the tennis courts too, and the parking lot, so
Yes.
congratulations on a great job on that.
Thank you, sir.
And pickleball, we've got
Pickleball.
pickleball. Mr. Logue, anything else for Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and Chief Donnelly and Chief Gaviglia. Thank you very much for the support with Union Township Police Night Out. Just was an incredible event this year, and all the volunteers. I was talking with Melvin DeWitt out here earlier about the Union Township Police Academy and all the volunteers that were out there. So it just was excellent. So thank you to the staff.
Thank you. Our next report tonight is from our Planning and Zoning Department, Mr. Corey Wright, Director.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. For the month of July, we fielded 57 inspections, fielded 7 complaints, issued 3 warning citations, 7 15-day non-compliance letter, and 1 30-day letter. We also removed 205, there were 205 illegal signs removed. Regarding permit activity, we had 3 new commercial permits issued, 8 commercial occupancy changes, 17 new single-family home permits for the month. Monthly total permits, 82 permits, $16,720 in revenue. That concludes my report.
Very good, thank you. Gentlemen, any questions or comments for Mr. Wright?
Thank you. Thank you for you and your staff, Mr. Wright, for doing the great work that you do in the department.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Okay, we'll move on to our administration. Mr. Ken Geis, Township Administrator.
Thank you. We did receive the first disbursement for the ARP money. That amount was just a little over $2.5 million, and that's in the account and shows up on the cash position now. For the fire department, it looks like we have the opportunity to purchase 2 used fire vehicles. Both are Pierce engines, and they're very similar to the ones that we purchased a few years back. Chief Donnelly had the opportunity to inspect one of them in Colorado, and we potentially would have the opportunity to inspect one here at Union Township on that. The cost of both of these units for both of them, would be less than $600,000, and we've had a history of doing this in the past. If we would purchase these units new, it would probably, cost us, somewhere more than $800,000 each for them. There's really, we found it in doing this that there's not a huge benefit in buying new vehicles for that. These used vehicles come from fire departments that just repurpose vehicles just on a yearly basis, and once it reaches a certain age, they just buy new vehicles, and whether it's a union contract or whether it's some other process that they have in that, and we've had great success with doing that, and we can save a lot of money. I have a purchase order tonight for that for consideration, and I really think that we should continue to do that, and the opportunity to buy these 2 units that are of the same design, they're Pierce units, I think would be, in the best interest of the township. Another thing that I'd like to talk about the fire department too is Chief Donnelly told me that we had purchased a used ladder truck from Lebanon some years back, and they basically were just giving it away. We bought it for less than $10,000 in that. And a ladder truck today now costs somewhere north of $1 million, and a lot of them are, $1.2, $1.3 million, depending upon what options you get on those. I think the chief, we have the chance to buy one of those units too, and again, there would be a significant cost savings in that. I think the chief would like to maybe inspect some of those units and bring that information back to the Board of Trustees for consideration as well. Again, we could save upwards of, $1 million on a ladder truck on that. And in talking to Chief Donnelly, the ladder trucks, they have a useful life of, 20 to 30 years on that. And some of these trucks are, 10 years old or less. And even if they're 20 years old, as long as they pass the pump certification and they are mechanically sound, we can continue to use them. We don't have the occasion to use the ladder trucks on a regular basis, but when we need it, it's a very important life safety tool that we can have, and having the best possible equipment in the most economical fashion, I think is in the best interest of Union Township. So we have the purchase order for the two tonight, and then assuming the board is in agreement with that moving forward and moving forward with the ladder truck, we can bring that back to the board at some later time on that. On the police department, we're accepting applications. We're going to have at least one retirement for one of the sergeants later this year. So I told the chief that we need to get into that process with that. Unless there's an objection to that process going forward, I'd like the board to also consider hiring 2 additional police officers before the end of the year. We've never had the opportunity really to do that in the past just because we didn't have the funding. We were successful in the safety services levy for the police and the fire department. There's absolutely no doubt that we're understaffed in both the police department and the fire department, and this is really, I think, something that we should move forward, and we should move forward in this process since they're already going to accept applications for that position anyway, that they can just continue to do that. The gas main on Round Bottom Road for Hamilton Safe is complete. The sanitary is basically complete. We're looking to open Hamilton Safe sometime soon. And talking to them, everything has gone really well, and my conversations with the contractor and all of that, they're very appreciative of the support that Union Township has given them and making those improvements happen. As previously reported, the veterans parking lot's been striped and repaved, and the tennis courts and the pickleball courts are a huge success. And we've probably received more positive comments about the pickleball courts than anything else in quite some time. So again, thanks for the Board of Trustees authorizing us to allow to do that. We'll have non-solicitation stickers available for any of the residents that would like to sign up for the non-solicitation restrictions at their homes. They'll be available at the police department or with at the township. We ask that you contact the police department to get on the registry list if you would like to be on that non-solicitation. We did have one HOA organization contact us for the entire HOA certification of that. So, and we did provide them, that was a Polo Fields with the non-solicitation stickers for that. You'll notice on the agenda that we have the opportunity to apply for the Ohio Stimulus Program grant, and that is for sidewalks. We can obtain up to $250,000 in grant money for that. So we have included a family of projects around the high school that didn't have sidewalks originally installed in that. And we'd really like the board to consider applying for that. There will be an additional cost. It's going to be more than $250,000. I don't have that number tonight for you. If the board authorizes us to move forward with that, we'll hire an engineer specifically to get that information, apply for the grant, and move forward. Applying for the grant does not obligate us to go forward with it, but this is an opportunity to really get $250,000 worth of sidewalks to benefit the township, and without any cost to us. You'll see also there's a resolution regarding the opioid participation agreement in there, and again, that was to allow us to enter into the group settlement for the state of Ohio. We don't have a number as to exactly how much Union Township would be eligible for. That depends upon how many organizations and municipal corporations join that suit in the state of Ohio. And this is one where actually the more that join, the more money there is available for all of the entities. And we finally have all of the information we need for the sign permit on 275 and Ohio Pike, and we're ready to move forward. We have a resolution on the agenda for consideration for that with the state of Ohio, and there's also a purchase order associated with that. The only other thing that, I like to talk about tonight is that there's been some really discussion about Eastgate Mall recently, and a lot of it was brought about because of the Sears sale in that. Sears was sold to Kroger, and, Kroger, we're not exactly sure what their plans are. They've talked to us about potentially a marketplace store, but they really have no specific, we haven't been privy to any plans. They haven't submitted anything to us. So again, it would be premature for us to speculate on exactly what would occur there. But, Eastgate Mall is something that, we've been involved with CBO, the owners of the mall that filed for bankruptcy last year and that. And, over the years, we've partnered with them on their redevelopment and assisting them with incentives on that project to really enhance that over a period of time. And as, the board's well aware, that mall was created in the 70s, and it really has been a great asset to not only Union Township, but to Clermont County. And as go a lot of the malls in the United States and in the Cincinnati area, with mainly the exception of Kenwood Mall, in that they're being repurposed. They are going into redevelopment phases and all of that. And, I personally am, excited about the opportunity that we have with Eastgate Mall now. With the bankruptcy in there, the majority of the property is owned by CBO, but they're not the only property owner in there. You have, now the Kroger's is in there. You have the Grandma's Trust that owns property on there. There's a Logan's site, the old Logan's restaurant, that's for sale now, and I believe it's under contract, and I think that may close within the next 60 days on that. You have Dillard's and JCPenney as well. You have some outlots in there too. So when you couple that all together, you have about 80 acres of property there that is arguably the best positioned property on the eastern side of the greater Cincinnati area. And I really think that, with our assistance and, the assistance that, I can provide and our staff can provide for that, that we could really turn that into, potentially the crown jewel of, the area in that. It was a great development. A lot of things have happened. It's changed in that. But now with the, current events and what's going on with that property, I think, we have, even more opportunity to do that. And, I'm excited about working with, the receiver on that, any other property owners that are interested in doing something there to provide something, that would be, very positive for Union Township. And, I think, we have a great success in Union Township with the work that we did at Jungle Gyms, the work that we did at Ivy Point on that, and then a property that was in a similar position. It wasn't in the final bankruptcy when it redeveloped, but with the PEBB group, Eastgate Station there, 32 East on that, and the redevelopment from the folks from Boca Raton in that, and what we were able to partner with them in redevelopment in that. So again, I think it's, just a great opportunity for us, and, I'm excited about, the chance to do that. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
No, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Geis.
Geis?
Appreciate that.
Just a couple real brief. Mr. Geis, thanks. Thank you very much for the report. Always great for the police and fire to see that there can be some new hiring positions coming in. It's definitely been my understanding as far as the staffing levels that the police and fire have had, and I know the officers are 14 runs a shift on average, and it's a very busy department, which is, has its pros and cons. I was excited to see, one, the opportunity to be able to have a legislative update from Ohio Township Association for this Ohio Stimulus Program grant from Odot. I've been recently talking with a lot of members, community members around the high school area and the need for sidewalks there. And this was just a perfect grant opportunity, so I was very appreciative of the staff to already be moving on that when I recognized that it was becoming available as well. And then also, Mr. Wright and Mr. Geis, thank you for acting quickly from that Thursday afternoon turnaround. Again, it was a legislative update from Ohio Township Association for joining the information session on the opioid participation agreement, and being able to sit through on that. So it looks like that's going to at least be a benefit, and maybe something that we're able to, if funding does come back through, be able to allocate over to the fire and EMS and safety services side to help offset some of those costs that we see from drug overdoses as it is. Mr. Geis, thanks for the update there. So you mentioned Kroger as the marketplace. When did you get that update about marketplace from Kroger?
We had that when they came in to talk to us, probably, I think it was plus or minus a week or so, maybe 2 weeks before they were going to close on the property.
Okay. All right, because I was just trying to compare my notes with just checking for information on if anyone's heard from, and if anyone in the township had heard from Kroger's, when I was just looking for some updates recently at the end of July, going into early August, and the last updates that I received was that we've not heard anything from anyone at Kroger. So I want to make sure I'm on the same page if that information's coming in, because again, Eastgate Mall is a big area and an attraction. It's definitely something like a project like the Jungle Gyms, like the Ivy Point, where we've been a partnership with the county before, that I think is something to also include in that long-term planning for the Eastgate Mall location, and be able to include and see what type of resources the county maybe would offer as well for that long-term planning with Eastgate Mall. So I know the development director would probably have some offer to that for resources. So just want to keep that on the township's radar as well.
And specifically on that, when we notified the board, that was the last time that we had heard from Kroger. When we initially notified you about the interest in Kroger on that, was our last contact with you, with Kroger.
Okay, I just was trying to look for clarity of that, because I didn't see a press release or any news story on it, but I saw a rumor going around on social media with it, and I checked for updates, and he just had shared with me that it was posted on the auditor's website on July 19th, and that we'd not heard from Kroger's, and when I checked back on August 7th, we'd not heard from Kroger's. So I just wanted to make sure Kroger's was actually communicating with the township, because I think that would be a poor position not to invite Kroger's to the table and be involved in the long-term planning for that location. And if that was the case, because that was the perception I was receiving, that we've not heard from Kroger's in the updates I've received. So thank you.
Since my update, I updated the board in July that they were interested in that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always important to point out that the township doesn't own the mall, we can't direct the mall, and all the property owners there. We can only offer our assistance and guidance. A lot of times residents say, you guys need to do something with the mall, and there's different things we can help them with, but it's really, at the end of the day, they're private property owners, and they can decide the direction they want to go. But we can certainly give our input, and like Mr. Logue, help with planning, and offer our vision, what residents want to see, and get that feedback to them so they realize what people would like to see there. So I think there's an opportunity to get at the table and do that.
Mr. McGraw, how did you get notified of the sale of Kroger, of Sears to Kroger's?
I was not notified. I just checked the auditor's website.
Oh, okay. Is there a good search feature to go to the auditor's website to search for daily sales, or?
No, but I had heard rumors that there was, on social media, that there was some kind of announcement would happen from employees. So I just kept checking the auditor's website to see if any sale had happened.
Okay.
And I found out like 2 days after it happened. I believe,
Okay.
was when I announced something.
Okay. That might be beneficial information to get over to the staff, and the staff can, share it out to all the trustees. So again, that's like the gateway into the township. So it just would be, if the staff's able to help, I guess, disseminate or bring in that type of information, definitely not, put us on anything that's all together. I like to keep that separate, but that's just good to know. I'm personally not checking the auditor's website every day for the sales, so thank you, appreciate that.
Yes. Anything else from Mr. Geis?
Thank you, Mr. Geis, appreciate it.
Thank you for the updates too on the fire truck. Just to clarify, because you read through it fairly quick, but the cost for the two pumper trucks, there would be 300,000 each, a total of 600,000, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, okay. Let's make sure. All right, gentlemen, we have some public hearings tonight and some cases here. So we'll go ahead and start on that one. Okay, our first case tonight is Union Township Overlay Case 10-21-0. This is for 910 State Route 125. It's an application for an increase in signage. Munther David is the applicant. Mr. Wright, do you have some comments to make on this case?
Yes, sir, and I'll be extraordinarily brief considering the number of cases we have. This case would grant relief for some signage limitations that we have. The applicant's done a really great job sprucing up the building. They have a mural on the side of the building here. This is a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is signage. It's very attractive. It looks nice. It makes the building look nice, but we need to grant relief to that because of the limitations on the zoning code for wall signage for a property. So the action required this evening would be in accordance with 1310 of the zoning resolution. The board is to enter a motion to approve, modify, or deny this request. There's a couple of conditions, just that in the future, if they make substantial modifications to the site, that will work administratively to incorporate landscaping and sidewalks. That would only be if future renovations are done. And then modification to the existing freestanding sign, ultimately, other than face change. So structural alterations would be to bring that sign into compliance with our monument signage requirements. That's really the only two recommendations for the board's consideration.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Wright?
No, sir. Here's the, yes, I have one. It's Mr. David and company, and...
Yes, Mr. Davis here.
He is? Are you aware of the modifications?
Yes, sir, the applicant gets a copy of the staff report.
Okay.
Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here tonight who'd like to speak on behalf of this case? Okay. Seeing there's no one at this time, I'll close the public hearing and open the floor for the Board of Trustees to comment. Gentlemen, any comments, questions, or things you'd like to say about this case?
Nothing, just the recommended modifications be taken care of, and the situation up on there. 125 restaurant, nice restaurant, it's been many years, many meals there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a very nice mural, so I understand they'll be serving dinner soon.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So that'll be nice. Right now, it's breakfast and lunch, is that correct? Okay. Mr. Org, anything you want to add?
No comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, if there's nothing further, I'll ask for a motion to either approve, modify, or deny this request. This is regarding Union Township Overlay Case 10-21-0.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to approve the focus area overlay application by case number 1021-0 with the modifications as I said.
Okay. I'll second that.
Roll call. Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw,
Yes.
Mr. Logue.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations on your signage. Everything's approved now. Appreciate that. Good luck to your restaurant. People are always saying that they want, individually owned restaurants and local places, so there's a good opportunity to try them out and see what it's all about.
Amen.
So, there we go. The next case, let's see. The 21-0, it's a Union Township overlay case for 842 State Route 125. It's for the redevelopment of the site. Mr. Wright, do you have some comments on this case?
Yes, sir, and again, I'll be brief. This is an overlay due to a substitution of use. We have a kind of a long-standing property here that was developed prior to zoning. And I'll skip ahead. Everybody's familiar with this site. It's vacant, it's fallen into disrepair. The applicant has, most recently, I think there was a market there, and this is in the Hopi corridor, just east of Glen Asti, at 125. The proposal, it's a fairly basic proposal. The applicant wants to reestablish auto sales on the property, and then also have some tire sales associated with that in the rear, and then the owner would continue to occupy the rear half of the building and the fenced-in area. Just some considerations. We've provided several modifications or recommended modifications just to try to enhance the site. The applicant provided a very basic site plan. Again, just to the point of looking at this, that the access on 125 is not really desirable. Again, as previous cases have indicated, we're kind of subject to Odot's regulatory purview in that regard. We would recommend the upgrading of privacy fencing around the site with at least integrated slats. No outdoor storage of tires, equipment, or auto parts should be permitted. In the event that driveway consolidation is required by Odot, sidewalk repair work should be incorporated. As you can see here in the site plan, the sidewalk does need some repair, which could be achieved with, just some general maintenance plus the redefinition of an apron. There would be a considerable upgrade. If possible, the inclusion of grass strip or landscaping on the back edge of the sidewalk. Any increase to the height of the sign should require the sign to be modified to monument-style signage. If there is a dumpster that is to be provided, there should be an enclosure. If no dumpster is provided or needed, then no enclosure is needed. But if there is dumpster, tire storage, anything like that, there will need to be an enclosure, specifically the tire storage inside, and then rubbish or waste in an approved surround. And then parking blocks would be a necessary upgrade for the site too, considering we really don't have any defined pavement area since the site's been vacant. So the action required this evening is in accordance with Section 1310 of the resolution to approve, modify, or deny this request with the recommended modifications presented for the board's consideration. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions from Mr. Wright on this case?
No, sir. Outside, how usual,
You got 7 modifications.
7 modifications there. Applicant aware of those?
The applicant does receive a copy of that. The applicant is from Atlanta, was unable to attend. There is some question as to whether they would proceed with this. Ultimately, they did not withdraw the case and elected to have the board hear the case tonight, so they are aware of the conditions.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a public hearing for this case. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak on behalf of this case? All right. Seeing there's no one at this time, I'll close the public hearing and I'll open the floor to comments from the board members. Gentlemen, do you have any comments about this case?
I've used the place, looking at it last couple of days, and it's in very much disrepair. It does need some help, and I'm just wondering about the modifications if they were going to be met. Outside that, I have no other problem.
To get the parking spots, they are showing that they'd have to resurface parking lot and redo that. And Mr. Wright's pictures certainly show the disrepair of the sidewalks. And, so these modifications, I think, do cover a lot of those questions I had about the property. But I'd like to see something happen with it because it's been kind of in flux. But a couple of businesses have tried to be there and not worked out lately, but it'd be nice to see someone take it over and put a little bit of investment into it. So, Mr. Logan, any comments?
No, I think you gentlemen covered it.
Okay. Well, then I'll ask, if there's no other further comments, I'll ask for a motion to either approve, modify, or deny this case. It's Union Township Overlay Case 11-21-0.
I'll make a motion that in accordance with section 1310 of the zoning resolution, the trustees enter in motion to approve case number 11-21-0 with the recommended modifications to 7 that Mr. Wright has read. And, so be it.
I'll second that.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next case we have tonight. It's Union Township Overlay Case 12-21-0. It's for 481 and 485 Old State Route 74. The applicant is looking to redevelop the site. It's called 74 Ventures LLC. They're the applicant. Mr. Wright, do you have some comments on this case?
Yes, sir. This applicant purchased this property. There was a duplicate parcel listed. It's one parcel, about .995 acres. This is another substitution of use. As you know, this site is the former La Rosa's Restaurant and Convenience Store in Mount Carmel. 2 addresses, 2 occupants. The applicant has purchased the building in the Mount Carmel Business Corridor, seeks to basically relocate his restaurant management group into the building with, the building actually provides him an opportunity, kind of a unique opportunity to store some classic cars inside the unutilized space in his portion of the building. And then he plans to renovate the other half of the building for a build-to-suit or spec tenant to be determined. Generally, they would be any tenant that would be permitted in the B1 Business District use, and approximately 3,500 square feet of that would be dedicated to that. It is consistent with the land use plan. The applicant has already made great strides on the cleanup. They proposed some stone in this drawing and some stucco to upgrade the finishes. You'll also see some of the glass will be removed and upgraded in that regard. You can see here, he's already cleaned, I forget, and he may speak tonight, he'll tell you how many dumpsters he hauled out of the place. It's been a considerable amount, and estimates that he will put approximately, I believe in the application, around $150,000 in total investment into the structure, which is, will be a considerable improvement. So the action required this evening is in accordance with 1310 of the zoning resolution to approve, modify, or deny this request. There are 5 conditions, standard conditions. The applicant really addresses the bulk of these through the application. These would just be standard conditions for any parcel in Mount Carmel regarding monument signage, dumpster enclosure if they need one, otherwise just a trash enclosure for standard bins, vegetation for review, and any new lighting, we require that to be downward directed, dark sky compliant, and no outdoor storage of commercial equipment other than traditional light-duty vehicles, which would allow for a contractor trade service use or something like that to occupy the space. So that concludes my report.
Mr. Wright, my question would be, is the parking lot in suitable condition, or does that need to be resurfaced, or?
He's going to make some strategic repairs and then seal and stripe, but I imagine there'll be some continuing maintenance in that regard.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Mine is, as always, is the applicant aware of the modifications that you're asking for?
Yeah, we've met with the applicant, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Logan, any questions?
No, not this time. You gentlemen covered it.
Thank you. All right, then I'll open this floor right now. This is a public hearing regarding Union Township Overlay Case 12-21-0 for 481 and 485 Old State Route 74. Is there anyone who wants to speak on behalf of this case tonight? Please come forward. Seeing there's no one at this time, I'm going to close the floor to the public portion and open the floor again to the Board of Trustees. Gentlemen, any final comments, questions, anything you'd like to add?
It's good to have that place cleaned up, but I can remember years ago when the Rose was there, it was a nice place to go into and everything, but now it's all went downhill for years.
Yes.
So, glad to see someone going in there, taking place and cleaning it up.
Yeah, just another movement forward in the Mount Carmel area.
Yes.
Very nice to see that, more investment to another building in that area. A lot of people are interested in that area, coming back, so we're glad to see that. So I think that's a positive thing. Mr. Logan, anything you want to add?
No, someone, don't hear anyone here from the applicant speaking and no public speaking on it. And it's pretty straightforward. I think you gentlemen covered it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll ask for a motion then to either approve, modify, or deny this focus area overlay district application. It's for Union Township overlay case 12-21-0 for 481, 485 Old State Route 74 in Mount Carmel. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we, in accordance with section 1310 of the zoning resolution, that we enter into a motion to approve case number 1221-0 with the 5 modifications intact.
Okay. I'll second that.
Roll call, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw,
Yes.
Mr. Logue,
Yes.
motion carries.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Congratulations. And we'll move on to our next case. This is Union Township overlay case 13-21-0. It's for 4065 Mount Carmel Tabasco Road. The application for a redevelopment of this site is for Vandalia Rentals. They're the applicant. Mr. Wright, you have some opening comments regarding this case?
Yes, sir, and this is a little bit more detailed. This is the former Ohio Mulch site. Ohio Mulch, this overlay is in the Mount Carmel Neighborhood Quality Corridor. If the board remembers, I'm not sure, but Ohio Mulch came to kind of a longstanding property that had been a number of different things, and really put a nice retail establishment in on this property. Since the pandemic, their business model has changed. They've gone, as I understand it, primarily to catalog and home ship type products based on my conversation with the applicant. And so the applicant has an opportunity to purchase and reuse this site to provide for equipment rental. The applicant proposes a structure, we'll say around 11,000 square feet here, concrete. They're going to make use of the existing concrete barriers to provide for fencing and security on the site. This will involve demolition, some modification of parking. The existing residential structure will be removed, and then the access points will be redefined to improve circulation on the site. It does meet the standards for the corridor. We would indicate that whenever practicable, if parking lot modifications require, we would ask that they provide type 6 equivalent curbing to convey stormwater on the site if that is beneficial. The site does not have a lot of topography on it, so they're sort of having to engineer that. There is no dumpster enclosure included on the plan. They do need to provide a dumpster enclosure if one is to be utilized in the business. Landscaping is provided along Mount Carmel Tabasco Road. We will require, or should the board approve this, we would require a detailed landscaping at the time of permitting, subject to administrative review and approval. Gravel equipment storage area is acceptable, but all parking and circulation areas for the site for customers, trucks, travel, et cetera, need to be paved just to keep dust down. There is an issue with paving equipment storage areas just because of the wear and tear on the pavement from the on and off, the trailering and untrailering of that. There are several conditions. This is more like a commercial review. These are conditions that would be required during a commercial review. There are 9 conditions. for this, just more detailed elevations, type 6 curb where practicable, detail the type of fencing to be used in the front yard. This is decorative fencing. That's been a requirement for other self-storage facilities. We understand security is a significant concern there. Dumpster enclosure, if required in the use of the property, monument signage for the site, detailed landscaping plans. Vehicle circulation areas are paved. Combination of the parcels, which can be achieved prior to final occupancy, and kind of situating any heavy equipment in the rear of the site behind the building to kind of further screen that from the street. That concludes my report.
So, Mr. Wright, and if I understand correct, the residential structure will go away. They're going to build a new building
Yes.
and then utilize some of the existing buildings, or?
They're going to construct a new building, and then on the site plan, as you can see here, they've got a couple of small, I need my pointer here, I can't really. A couple of small storage auxiliary buildings here, but the residential structure sits here, it'll go away, and then the small retail structure, you can kind of see the outline of it right here, so.
Okay. And that ingress egress will remain as it is on that drawing, or is there?
They have,
modifications to that?
so they'll have an ingress egress point here. And then they're going to remove curb cuts. That's what this note here says. It's very, you can't really read it. And then there's a new circulation area here, so.
And then not a huge change to the back of the product. I think there's only one or two houses behind there now. Most
yeah.
of them are empty parcels.
There's several empty parcels on the old the subdivision street that really predated zoning, and the zoning in the area, you know, dates back more or less original to that or whatever. And yeah, there's really nominal, if any, impact, and nothing will really change because the concrete barriers will remain, and they are actually a very effective security and visual break for the site, so.
Okay. So not a big change for the people who, a couple houses live behind.
No, they won't see much difference at all.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Wright at this time?
No, just those concrete dividers back there where there's supplies, mulching, et cetera,
They'll remove some of the dividers, obviously, for equipment storage, to facilitate inventory, but they'll leave
Right there.
that stays, that'll be extended. And then they'll have security fencing in the front of the site. The goal would be to prevent unsecured access to the property and control that, you know, with a dedicated circulation route, so.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, just about the same old thing. Recommended modifications been discussed with the applicant, I assume?
Yes.
And you said it reviewed. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, this is a public hearing for this case. Union Township Overlay Case 13-21-0 for 4065 Mount Carmel Tabasco Road. Vandalia Reynolds is the applicant. Is there anyone who wants to speak on behalf of this case tonight? Okay. Seeing there's no one from the public who wants to make a comment, I will now close the public portion and open the floor to the Board of Trustees. Gentlemen, any final comments, questions?
Looks like a nice product going in there, big building. Big one, a small one in front.
Yeah, I think for a long time, Ohio Mulch ran a nice business there, and always kept property up, and I'm glad to see it turn right into another place.
Before that was at Oxears
Was it Oxford?
years ago. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Logue, anything you want to bring up?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
No comments from the public, no comments from the developer. So,
All right.
thank you.
Gentlemen, regarding this case, I'll ask for a motion to approve, modify, or deny this application for the focus area overlay districts. This is regarding Union Township Overlay Case for 4065 Mount Carmel, Tabasco Road. Vandalia Rentals is the applicant. Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion that, in accordance with Section 1310 of the zoning resolution, the Board of Trustees enters a motion to approve focus area overlay number 1321-0, and along with the 9 recommended modifications submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we have one more case tonight. This is Union Township zoning case 2-03-Z. It's a major amendment. This is for, in the area of Buxton Road. It's a plan development major amendment. The development proposal, it's the Provision Living is the applicant. They already have a development nearby this site. So, Mr. Wright, did you want to make some opening comments?
Yes, sir. This is a major amendment application to approve PD district formal plan on a portion of the former Glen Estee High School campus. The proposal will include construction of 45 semi-detached villa-style independent living units as kind of a phase 2 of the Provision Living product, and then an additional 452 multifamily units with, let's see, 58-unit, 4-story buildings totaling 88,000 square feet each, 22,000 square foot footprints, and an additional 3 54-unit, 4-story buildings totaling 72,000 square feet, or approximately 18,000 square foot footprint each. Planned clubhouse, leasing, office, pool, other amenities on the project site. Total building lot area coverage is approximately 18.3% of the site. The proposal conceptually points to some additional commercial area. If you can see the pointer in this area right here, but that is not included in this application and will be subject to future major amendments, but for reference purposes and in the plan, it's sort of identified in this area right here. So this proposal is 28.5 acres. As I indicated, it's on the western side of Buxton Road at the intersection of Klepper, the new Klepper Lane extension. The PD plan was formalized in 2003, contemplating present and future growth on the parcel. The existing campus was subsequently sought for redevelopment, which provision came to the township and opened their new project here in January of 2021. That included an initial phase of 22 semi-detached independent luxury villas and a main campus with both independent and assisted living units, as well as some memory care in that. The villa product has been a humongous success. I think they're fully leased, and they would like to build another 45 villa semi-detached units on the parcel. The project plan includes approximately 14.4 acres of landscaped open space area, 50% of the site. There are amenities provided in the site. There are, the applicant proposes high-quality building elevations, and that meshes well with the existing investment by Provision. You can see, here's some of the proposed elevations, high-quality buildings, high-quality amenity layout. The zoning in the area is PD. The photo you see here is another representative villa product, very similar to what's already there on the site. Bordered by R3, M1, and B1 district. There is some R1 zoning to the south and further to the west, with PD and heavy concentrations of R3 located to the east. Property to the east is already zoned PD as well, approved for mixed-use residential, retail, and office contemplated for the site, but no proposal has been formalized to date. Land use in the vicinity is somewhat mixed. There's some moderate to increasing density multifamily uses and heavy retail to the north and east of the project site, heavy commercial concentrations along 32, and institutional uses to the east. There are some single-family moderate density residential uses to the south and southwest. The comprehensive land use plan indicates that the proposal is located within the central retail commercial corridor. The land use plan calls for specifically including commercial mixed use and high-density multifamily residential to occur within this corridor. The plan identifies the PD district as the most appropriate district to achieve the objectives for the corridor. Basically, staff review indicates that approximately 18% of the site will be covered by building. Again, here's some more elevations or structures. 10% of the overall site covered parking and circulation. The remaining consisting of preserved wooded buffer areas and landscaped areas exceeding more than 14 acres in aggregate. This is a significant open space allocation, more than 50% of the overall site. Retention will be provided both on-site and through regional facilities, both to the north, actually to the south, draining to the existing detention basin. That provision significantly enhanced and upgraded as part of their first phase, and then draining through an on-site basin ultimately into Glen Willow Lake as part of the normal drainage for the site. Just a discussion of buffer area. The site, let me get to the site plan here. The site has a 75-foot buffer to the rear yard lots of Windsor Court, just for the parking area. And then the buildings are located, get to the site plan. So we'll just use this. So the buildings here, these buildings are 150 feet to the rear property line. This proposed curb line on the parking is 75 feet. So it's 75 feet to here, 150 feet to here. This setback's around 110 feet here. And then these single-story villas, which have just a residential feel to them, look like single-family homes, are set back 50 feet to this property line. I'm just trying to summarize my comments very briefly here. The site does provide some cross-access and circulation opportunities, and does provide for some mixed-use opportunities there. This is the existing site. As you can see, here's the southern detention basin. You can see the bulk of the development will be in this area. And then you can see here kind of preservation and enhancement is necessary for buffering along this area. We've also suggested after grading and construction activities are over that for the establishment of a no-mow zone, just to allow the area to revegetate naturally, which it did not when it was under prior institutional use. That area was mowed. This is an opportunity to kind of enhance that through the development of the site. Sidewalks are required to establish pedestrian activity along the frontage and then throughout the site just to promote a cohesive pedestrian environment on the site there. Utilities will need to be extended somewhat, the utilities are available here, obviously, just extended into the site further for that. Just the action required this evening is in accordance with 680 through 687 of the zoning resolution. The board is to approve, modify, or deny this request for major amendment. There are some recommended modifications. There are 7. Signage for the site, limited to monument-style signage, which is a consistent requirement held over from the first provision living proposal. Site plans, grading and access management plans, floor plans, elevations, and landscaping plans subject to administrative review and approval. Final access points subject to review and approval by the county engineer's office, and modifications incorporated in the final development plan if required by that agency. Furthermore, address all regulatory agencies' comments, engineer, water resources, etc., having permitting authority over the site. Sidewalks are a required element with both inter-site and external to the site pedestrian connectivity contemplated. Development of a detailed buffer plan on the areas adjacent to Wellington and Windsor Court rear yards to appropriately mitigate any adverse impacts from vehicle parking areas oriented toward the rear yard of these parcels. The buffering should be designed to specifically mitigate the impact of vehicle lights coming across the property. Establish a 50-foot no-mow vegetated area after the development of the site to allow preservation and restoration of the buffer yard there and allow that to significantly restore itself, taking into account the need to facilitate proper drainage on the site. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Wright, the picture you have up now, those streets adjacent to the former high school property, that area you're saying would be enhanced by allowing vegetation to grow or a new landscaping plan along there, where I think it was softball fields or something else was back there.
Yes, that's the area that we're specifically referencing. The picture, to really be oriented correctly, that should be flipped. This is south, this is north, but this is the best, really had a great overview of the site to kind of show context in that regard. But yes, that is the area discussed for the no-mow area, post-development, and also the specific buffering strategy, really concentrating that toward the improved area and staying as far away from the property line as possible.
And the villas you mentioned are a continuation of the current villas, is that correct?
Yes, they'll utilize the ring road here, and they'll be very similar, if not identical, to these villas. I believe they're going to have some ones and some twos in that, just because they've got some single folks that are independent, that may not need the extra space. They think that those will market equally well, but they'll be very similar.
And those will have access to the main building that has the care centers?
I believe so, and perhaps the applicant could speak more about the arrangement with the villas, but I think they're all integrated, yes.
Okay. That's all my questions. Any other questions from Mr. Wright at this time?
No, the previous development is outstanding. Move forward in what, 6 months? 7 months? Sold out?
Yes.
It's phenomenal.
Mr. Wright, when did we know the development was coming? I feel like I've heard a lot more about other developments or smaller projects, and then this one was on the agenda, or I saw it on Monday, or when you dropped off the cases, and I know it went through the zoning appeals, but did we have some long lead time on knowing when this project was coming to your office and through?
This specific application?
Yes.
I'd have to look at the filing date on the application, but it's obviously in this monthly hearing cycle. And I think the applicant's been working on, obviously they've been working on bringing additional development to the site for some time. And I
Okay.
think they can speak to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's just, it was new information for me, at least for that, and this size of development, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I think it's, Mr. Wright, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's important to point out here that many, many years ago, before, I know at least Mr. Logan and myself were on the board, I can't speak for Mr. McGee, but the high school, or the West Clermont had already had this zone as a planned development. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
I believe at one time the site, they were going to use it for new athletic fields and new bus garage and some other grand ideas that they had at the time.
And there was this ideas.
Yes.
And it passed.
Did not come to that.
I didn't see and if this has to stay quiet, Mr. Wright, but is there an estimated dollar value for what type of size development this is that's coming in?
I don't know. I mean, I would hesitate to I think the applicant could speak more to the specific investment as far as the number of the total construction value and
Okay.
all that. I would imagine it would be considerable.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, this is a public hearing. This is Union Township zoning case 2-03-Z. It's a major amendment for Buxton Road, a Plan Development Major Amendment, Development Proposal by Provision Living. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak on behalf of this case? Okay. Seeing there's no one wants to speak on behalf of the case? Oh, I'm sorry. Please come forward. We do have to swear you in for your comments. I'll raise my left hand, but if you raise your right hand.
Raise both.
Do you swear the information you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yes.
And if you give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dave Bayless, and I live in St. Louis at 2 Greenbrier Drive, 63124. As I said, my name's Dave Bayless. I'm the applicant. I'm also the owner of Provision Living, which is the community that Mr. Wright was talking about. We opened that in this past February, and we've been very pleased with it. I think the community has been pleased with it as well because we've leased up the villas very, very quickly. The assisted living building is over 50% occupied, and I think by the end of the year, it'll be fully occupied. We would like to continue to invest in the community and partner with Union Township and extend the villas to the area that Mr. Wright was talking about, and then in addition to that, provide the apartments. We've been working on this for, sometimes I delete the COVID months out of a timeline, but I think it's probably about a year or so now, and we've been talking to Mr. Wright for a number of months about it. What we like to do, we may have broader plans for a community, but we also like to phase it in and make sure that we're right on the services that we're providing in a community. And in this case, we strongly believe that we are and would like to continue to roll that out. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. The size of the investment, I think somebody asked. Right now, that's really still under the planning stage, but between the villas and the apartments, it'll be north of $50 million.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Thank you for that
if
information.
there's any specific questions, whether it's engineering or services, we can cover those.
I mean, it's easy to go see the product you have now to see what the next vision is. And you knew when you did the first phase, there would be a second phase to it.
Yes.
I'm glad to see
Yes.
some plans finally coming forward. But, it is a beautiful facility, very well received by
Thank
the
you.
people that I've met over there. And I think it's a great addition to the township.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on behalf of this case tonight? Okay. Seeing there's no one else, I'll close the floor to the public comments, and I'll open the floor for trustee comments. Gentlemen, any further comments you'd like to make regarding this case?
No, the provisional living now that's up there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you hadn't seen it, it's a beautiful development, and I think it's well taken by us when we went up there for the viewing of the properties. They've done a great job with it. And one question I didn't get to ask is, are you aware of the recommended modifications, Mr. Bayless? You can answer from there.
I'm halfway here. I'm aware of them, and I accept the modifications.
Thank you,
We're
sir.
happy with them. Thank you.
Ms. Wright, did I hear you correctly that you believe 50% of the property would still be green space?
That's based on the calculations that were provided, yes.
So somewhere close to it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's excellent.
That's large.
Anything else, John?
Yeah, I'll just say, great to hear you've been working with the township for about a year. So for that reason, and being a greater than $50 million investment, I guess I was just a little surprised. I haven't personally seen or heard of it here recently, and just asking for updates. But I like the project as far as, to speak with Jeff Corney on a lot of our, smart development within the township and what we can do. And, that's an area that is already concentrated, so it's a great place to continue to concentrate. And, it's a great product to be able to go in there. I know provisional living's great, so a really beautiful facility out there. I know there's a wait list pretty long for it, so that's always good. With that, I'm always focused on rebuilding trust between our government and the citizens. And so for that, I want to set the record straight. I'm not against any new development. I'm, however, against proposed development that went over 4,000 residents stand up and clearly say they don't want it. That's something that I just want to apologize for. So I just want to set the record straight on that. And as that goes, anyone that's up here at this board, I'm always willing to work with to identify the solutions for the complex problems that this township has over the years. So I just want to set that straight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, you have a comment?
No, I already said what I had to say.
All right. Well, regarding this case, Union Township zoning case 2-03-Z, a major amendment for Buxton Road Provision Living, is there a motion to either approve with some modification or deny this applicant's request?
I'd like to make motion according to section 680 through 687, that the Board of Trustees entered a motion to approve the applicant's request in case 2-3-Z with the 7 modifications.
Okay, thank you. I'll second that.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to everyone in the audience for your patience tonight. There was a lot of cases, and we appreciate, Mr. Wright, all the work you did and your department did to bring all this forth tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Board.
And Mr. Wright, quick question on that. Maybe the rest of the township already knows and knew this project was coming, but if anyone's surprised or shocked by it, which I don't think that they will, for where that's concentrated, where that's at, the township and the citizens always have a right to petition or referendum if they disagree with a resolution that the board passes in that nature. Is that correct?
I believe so.
This is an administrative modification, this is not a rezoning.
This is not legislative, so
This-
therefore,
no,
they'd have to, it would not be a referendum pursuant to the township
Well, it's already
zoning.
planned
Okay.
well.
It's
Okay.
already, it's an administrative decision.
But they do have a right, they do have an ability to
If it's a
petition or
subdivision.
appeal on an administrative. There's another Ohio Revised Code that provides that right. Is that correct?
I believe it's 2506.
That sounds correct to me. Yes, that's what I was
Sorry,
thinking. It's in the 25
Yeah.
series.
Mr. Lowe, I think, Mr. Geis is, I don't, is it
It's 2506.
2506?
Thank you. Thank you. That's appeal is what I was thinking. Thank you. Appreciate that. So just information for the citizens always. So, but again, Mr. Bayless, I don't see that occurring on this. It's a great project. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business we might have missed?
Not that I can see.
We'll move on to new business. The first item is approval of payments. I'm looking for a motion to approve the payments as prepared by Mr. Ron Campbell, our fiscal officer. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is approval of our monthly financial report. This is also prepared by Mr. Ron Campbell, our fiscal officer. If there's no questions about it, I'll ask for a motion to approve the monthly financial report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next item is approval of our purchase orders. These are purchase orders that exceed $10,000. They're recommended by Mr. Ken Geis, our Township Administrator. Mr. Geis, could you please read through these?
The first is for Duke Energy. It's for the Civic Center Gas and Electric for 3 months at $36,000. The next is to Total Quality Logistics. It's for the Economic Development Agreement for May, $16,196.34. The next is to Atlantic Sign Company for the Ohio Department of Right-of-Way signage at $125, at $25,000. The next is to Deccan International. It's for our annual maintenance agreement for the fire department at $18,000. And the last is to Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus LLC, and that's for the purchase of used fire apparatus. It's $600,000.
Okay. Gentlemen, have any questions or comments?
No, sir, I do not. Thank you very much, Mr. Geis.
Thank you, Mr. Geis.
I'll ask for a motion then to approve the purchase orders as presented. Is there a motion?
Yes. So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw,
Yes.
Mr. Logue,
Yes.
motion carries.
Tonight, we have some personnel actions. These are for our fire department. The first, we're being asked to hire Sheryl Spencer for the position of full-time administrative assistant with an effective date of September 7th, 2021, at the rate of $26 per hour. Chief Diamond, did you have any comments you wanted to make on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. McGraw. This evening, I would like to introduce and recommend Sheryl Spencer for consideration to the Board of Trustees for the position of full-time administrative assistant. She has earned a bachelor's degree from Central Bible College and has previous work experience as an office manager and as an administrative assistant. She has successfully completed all aspects of the hiring process, and I would recommend that Sheryl for the position effective September 7th, 2021, at a rate of pay of $26 per hour.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Diamond?
I have none.
And you are Sheryl Spencer, right?
Correct.
All right, well, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate that. Did the chief tell you you'd be working in a water tower?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Had to ask that.
It's a good question.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion then to hire Sheryl Spencer for the position of full-time administrative assistant.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Logue,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw,
Yes.
motion carries.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me serve Union Township and the fire department. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have you here.
Welcome aboard. I'll do the left-hand thing.
Congratulations. Pleasure meeting you.
Next, this is also for the fire department. We're being asked to hire Travis Gilkinson for the position of full-time firefighter, paramedic, step 2, in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement with an effective date of September 7th, 2021, pending a successful completion of a physical. Chief Diamond, did you have some comments about this person?
Yes, sir. Thank you again. This evening, I'd like to introduce you to Travis Gilkinson for consideration for that full-time position. He comes to Union Township with over 10 years' experience in the fire and EMS field, most recently serving as a lieutenant, full-time lieutenant, with the City of Maysville Fire Department. He currently holds certifications as a firefighter 2 and paramedic. He has successfully completed all aspects of the hiring process, including oral and written testing, interviews, background, driving, polygraph examinations. So tonight I would recommend a conditional offer of employment to him as a full-time firefighter paramedic at a rate of pay consistent with step 2 of the collective bargaining agreement effective September 7th, pending successful completion of his physical examination.
Thank you very much. So you're Mr. Gilkinson?
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I ask for a motion then to hire Travis A. Gilkinson for the position of full-time firefighter, paramedic step 2 in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So welcome aboard.
Thank you, guys. I just want to thank the board and Township administration. I'm excited to start my career with Union Township.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
We'll go to left-handed, thank you.
Hey, pleasure meeting you. Thank you. Congratulations.
And we have one more personnel action, also for the fire department. We're being asked to hire Matthew Rose for the position of full-time fire department mechanic with an effective date of September 7th, 2021 at the rate of $30 per hour. Mr. Chief Dimeling, did you have something you'd like to say about this person?
Thank you. This evening, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Matthew Rose. After graduating high school, he spent 6 years in the Navy, working in engine repair in a small boat shop. After serving in the Navy, he worked in the fire service for over 20 years, holding various positions, including 10 years as a fire chief, always being actively involved in fire service vehicle and equipment maintenance and repairs and testing. He has worked the last 2 years in a full-time position during fire truck repair, service, and testing, and pump testing for a fire truck sales and service center in Columbus, Ohio. He, too, has successfully completed all aspects of the hiring process, and it would be my recommendation to hire Matt for the position effective September 7th, 2021, at a rate of pay of $30 per hour.
Thank you for that introduction. And you are Matthew Rose, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here tonight. We do
Thank you.
appreciate it. Gentlemen, I'm looking for a motion then to hire Mr. Matthew Rose for the position of full-time fire department mechanic.
So moved. Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes,
Motion carries.
welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Smooth sailing, brother.
Welcome aboard.
It's great to have you. Congratulations.
So that's a real nice hire, having the experience, you know, the firefighter end of it. Now, we'll be able to maintain our equipment, and he's a Navy guy.
Yes. And he's a Navy guy. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So move on to our next item on the agenda. We're being asked to establish the 2021 Union Township Fall Junk Days. We need a motion to establish our Union Township Fall Junk Days for October 21st through the 23rd. It will be a Thursday and Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Clean the junk up.
That's always a much anticipated event. It's a great chance to get rid of a lot of junk items and well received by the community. But also want to tell everybody, check the website. There are some items they cannot take, like hazardous materials would be the best way to describe that. Tires and batteries and, you know, caustic materials, things like that. But just about everything else is very. All right. Next, we have an Odot Township Stimulus Grant Program, application authorization. Mr. Logue and Mr. Geis talked about this earlier. Motion to authorize the development and submittal of an application for consideration relative to the 2021 Odot Township Stimulus Grant Program for the design and construction of sidewalks throughout the township, and further authorizing execution of any and all documents thereto in furtherance of the same. And the area we're talking about would be mainly around the high school, Sheryl Road and Loch Buxton and Clough Pike, where it meets McMahon Road, I believe.
Yes.
Is in that general area? Is the area we would be targeting. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So hopefully that'll go through. I know, Mr. Logie, you mentioned you've talked to some residents who are very interested in that, and I think
Yeah.
it'd be a great safety addition for kids to be able to walk to school.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic for that, and I'm sure I talked with Natasha Adams about that as well, that was on the radar, and, hopefully have support and be able to get a successful process with that, and I'm sure the school board will be receptive and happy if that goes through as well, so.
Yes. Great addition, so thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have a contract authorization. We need a motion to approve and enter into maintenance agreements and contracts between Union Township and the Ohio Department of Transportation, and separately with Union Township and Swenson's Drive-In Restaurants, LLC, for the maintenance of sidewalk required in conjunction with the development of Clermont County Parcel ID 413216A 117, and situated within the public right-of-way of State Route 125, Union Township, Clermont County. This would also further authorize our township administrator to execute any and all documentation in furtherance of the same. Gentlemen, this is an agreement ODOT requires for sidewalk maintenance. The agreement that Swenson's would take care of the sidewalks, but Union Township has to agree to be to the default care of it in case they do not. So, is there any comments or questions about this?
No, I have none, sir. Something needed.
With this being a state highway, it's something that ODOT requires.
Absolutely.
All right. If there's no further comment, I'll ask for a motion to approve and enter into this maintenance agreement between Union Township and ODOT, and separately Union Township and Swenson's Drive-In.
So moved.
Sir.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to, we have two resolutions tonight. First, we're being asked to adopt Resolution 2021-17. It's the One Ohio Opioid Class Action Settlement Participation Resolution. We're being asked to adopt this resolution authorizing the participation in the One Ohio Subdivision Settlement pursuant to the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the July 21st, 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreement, and further authorizing the execution or acceptance of all required applications, paperwork, and other documents in furtherance of the same. So, gentlemen, is there any comments?
No, I have none, sir.
As Mr. Logue mentioned earlier, it's a great way to recapture some of the additional costs that we've incurred handling opioid overdoses and cases, whether through our police department, through our EMS and fire departments. So
Yes.
I think it's a good idea. So is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'll pass on the thank yous to the Ohio Township Association also for getting their legislative alert out, so.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Next is Resolution 2021-18, a resolution authorizing an application for a right-of-way identification signage with ODOT. We're being asked to authorize the installation of a new Union Township Gateway Monument sign at the northbound I-275 and eastbound State Route 125 interchange off-ramp area. This would authorize the execution of agreement between Ohio Department of Transportation and Union Township relative to the installation of a proposed gateway monument sign and ODOT right-of-way, along with other relevant documents in furtherance of the same. Gentlemen, you have any questions, comments?
Not on this, but I do on another matter after this is taken care of.
Okay. This would replace the current signage that was put there many years ago by Clermont County. I'll ask for a motion then to adopt Resolution 2021-18.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I want to thank Mr. Geis for your hard work on getting the proper documentation done, because I don't know if the original sign there ever had the right documentation, but that's up for debate, but I'm glad we crossed the Ts and dotted the Is on that, got that done correctly. Okay, so that's our regular items. I do want to mention, though, our schedule for September and October will be to go back to 2 meetings a month, unless there's an objection from the board. Normally, we have, in the past, we've always had the second Thursday and the fourth Thursday of each month for our meetings. Is that correct?
Yes,
Second and fourth.
second and fourth.
Yes, so those are already scheduled. We authorized that at the beginning of the year, and those are already on the schedule. So I just want to remind people that those meetings would be coming up, and also possibility of a special meeting regarding the Cardinal land proposal. That will be this month.
Yeah, I'll share a comment on the meetings upcoming, so.
Okay.
That's what, September, October, then back to November, December's back to 1 meeting a month.
Right.
So I know we talked in the past as far as what's workload dependent. I mean, we've had kind of a full workload tonight, but we're still, it's 8:52. It's a pretty good time. So I would say, one, let's consider what's the workload for September and October to be at one meeting that month. But I also say that in support of, I've heard a lot from the community that actually really likes 1 meeting a month. It's one thing for them to plan for versus every 2 weeks. And also, I don't know how much it plays into their judgment on that right now, but if there's still any health concern or what it may be, I know there's no mandates on people, but that may be something also that just helps people kind of cut down some of the traffic. And also, I know our staff, I mean, they're here probably late, twice a month, but, might be good too to just condense it to one for them as well. So that's just a thought for this year, since we go back to November, December's 1 meeting. So.
And those months traditionally were 1 meeting because of the holidays.
And we've been one meeting a month all year so far. So 10 out of 12 months already, so I would say that we do it for September or October. I'm seeing the head nod over here.
Thoughts on it?
And Mr. Campbell, I think it helps your schedule. The workload's good.
No, we're good. I mean,
Okay.
with the electronic documentation now, we're good.
Okay.
We're paying bills every week, so that's good. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Mr. Wright, what about your workload as far as the zoning cases?
The zoning cases have always been reserved for the first meeting of the month, so
Okay.
So really not an impact to actually the workload on that, so, okay.
Well, then we would need a motion to cancel the meeting in September at least.
I make motions, we continue with the 1 meeting a month, be the second Thursday of the month for September, October, November, December, I guess it would be also.
I'll second that. Yeah, thank you.
For clarity, it would be the first meeting of the month, right?
Correct.
First, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
It'll be on the second Thursday.
essentially continue the schedule with 1 meeting a month.
Got it.
All right, okay.
Okay, so roll call, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Logue,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So, Mr. Geis, we would need a proper notification sent out regarding that matter. All right.
I had something I wanted to say on the matter of talking about signage.
Okay.
There are 1 or 2 gentlemen here in this room with a group of a half a dozen people or so, cleaned up the sign at 275 and 125. If you've not seen it, welcome to Clermont County. These gentlemen took their Sunday morning off and went down and cleaned that, and their wives, I understand, and cleaned that area up around that sign, and had, I don't know how many bags of weeds and debris picked up and put out on the highway. And I don't know whether they've been given any recognition except by mouth to mouth outside of that, but I'd just like to comment on John Lips and Mel. And I know their wives were there, and I don't know who else is with you, but congratulations to you for doing a fine job cleaning that area up. It looked like a bunch of weeds out there and all. Now you can finally see the signs are coming into Clermont County. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'd
thank
like to give you a little hand on that. A lot of work.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I guess I have a question with that, so I'll recognize that. Mr. Geis is, or to Mr. Wright, as far as, it's within Union Township. I know it's a Clermont County sign. I believe it was a Eagle Scout project in the past, but maybe that history's wrong. But is that also Odot right away, or is there any discrepancy with it being that it's ODOT, or?
It's ODOT right away, and then the resolution we passed allows us to place the sign there, but it is ODOT right away.
Okay, so also it was actual resolution that this board did pass in history with that, okay? Okay, we have.
And we did receive permits from ODOT to allow us to do that.
That's great. I believe driving by, I was able to see, I haven't seen it at night yet, but I believe there's the landscape lights. Is that accurate? Are those lighting up the American flag appropriately? Is that good? Or do we need something different for that?
I haven't looked at it recently, but they were.
Yeah, 'cause I know I saw the 2 American flags on there, and I just wanted to either make sure we're standing post at night or they're visible.
Most of the credit though should go to the Western, Clermont County Republican Club, because they're the ones who organized it. And we were just following their lead.
Is that a political organization or club? What is that?
I'm sorry,
Is that a political organization or club? What is that?
it's a club.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And
Well, thank you. Please pass on our thanks and gratitude.
Thank you.
anything else, John?
I have nothing, sir. So you've got a lot of reading to do now.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to mention, they're almost ready to complete the old State Route 74 construction that's been going on from Teal Town intersection up to Schoolhouse Road. That's nearly complete. And the county engineers announced that they'll soon be opening that and then closing down from Schoolhouse down to Elick Lane will be the next section they work on. So just be aware of upcoming traffic changes. But they're actually ahead of schedule on the part they're working on now. And according to what I read from the county engineer, they'll be finishing that up early and starting on the new section. And continue that work on down to Dogwood Lane, I believe. So I just want to mention that. Is there any other comments from the board tonight?
I have none, sir.
All right, I'll open the floor to public comments. Is there anyone who wants to address the board tonight and make a comment?
Good evening, gentlemen. Well, my name and so forth for the record.
Yes, if you would say your name and address for the record. please.
Certainly.
Thank you.
My name is Glenn Rudolph, 4582 English Creek Drive, Cincinnati, Union Township, 45245.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I was here at the last meeting and presented some information. I want to follow up on that a little bit, but I want to give some background as well. You asked a number of questions. We exchanged an email, and
Yes.
I've addressed those as well.
Thank you.
But first, I'd like to start with just a few statistics, just kind of frame the whole situation, because what we're talking about is $5.1 million in unplanned funds. And I cite everything, so I'll give you guys copies of everything with the citations. It's not just Union Township. I presented the same information to Clermont County Commissioners, seeking $40 million to go back to the taxpayers from them. Conversation was very delightful, well-received. But it's a process, and that's what I'm asking for here is a process in terms of what should take place there. But again, in terms of context, on January 1st, 2020, I think everybody's heard the name or they're aware of Dave Ramsey. Well, he reports that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I know that statistic's real. I'm thankful that I've not been in that position, but our fellow citizens are. And that was, again, that was January 1st, 2020. October 2020, 63% of Americans say they have been living paycheck to paycheck. If faced with a $500 emergency, 8 out of 10 people report they would not be able to cover the cost. It's an incredible statistic. And that's by CNBC, December 11, 2020. 40% of Americans don't have enough cash to cover a $400 expense. And that's from Paychecks Works. That's July 16, 2020. I was kind of shocked. I had, a number of months back, my spouse and I were driving down Ivy Point. We got caught in a traffic jam. I've never been in a traffic jam during the middle of the day there. It usually flows right on through. And it was on a weekend. And it turns out it was food giveaway at TQL. The parking lot was full. It was unbelievable, but it was an eye-opener. Those are our fellow citizens. Those are our fellow residents. And unfortunately, a lot of people are struggling, and they're getting pinched. This morning I read in the Wall Street Journal, it was a short article, and I'm going to give you a copy of this as well. Short article, and it was, the primary author was Phil Graham. He used to be the head of the Senate Banking Committee. Well done. He capitalizes more and summarizes more than I can do, and it takes me a dozen pages to do what he did in half a page. I think you'll find it really informative. My point is, we've got that $5.1 million in funds. My thing is a policy thing. It's not a political thing at all. I mean, I supported every one of the Clermont County Commissioners, and I'm pushing them on the same thing. I like them all. I voted for all of them, but it's policy. It's not a matter of, you know, I favor this person over another person. It doesn't really matter to me. You know, I'm 100% policy. But in terms of the those monies, if we were to, I think it would be fair to say, my argument is this: with the number of people, and again, it's the far majority of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's probably more true in Union Township than it is in other areas. We're not Indian Hill, we're not Madeira, we're not Montgomery, we're not Mariemont. We're a great community. It's a great place to live, but there's a lot of people that's where they're at. And if I look at the podium and myself, Mr. McGee, you and I are probably the senior guys on the bench.
Thank you.
And I know a lot of senior citizens. I know you're an advocate for senior citizens, and I'm sure they would much rather, they feel they could spend that money, if it's credited back to their property taxes, better into a higher use than what, it's not a slam, what local government would do with those funds. That's what I'm arguing for. These folks, they're probably in a much better position. All the taxpayers, again, these are unplanned windfall funds. They're in a better position to make a decision what's the best use of these funds for them and their families than somebody else spending those funds for them. Again, there might be things that are nice to have, but a lot of people, they're not even getting by with the basics. But having said that, again, what I would encourage is I think there needs to be a dialogue. I'm going to request that, I'm glad to hear that the 2.5 million plus was received, the first down payment on that. I'm going to request that not be spent, that the board pass a resolution, just put it in escrow, don't reserve it, don't allocate it, don't earmark it, but put it aside. And let's have a robust public discussion and allow the public to be involved. They need exposure to what this is and have that input on it. I think that's only fair. People don't have awareness of what it is at this point in time. There was a short blurb in the Clermont Sun after our last meeting. It had a paragraph, very small. But I can tell you, I got a lot of knocks on the doors. A lot of people stopped by and they said, what's that all about? When I explained it to them, I talked to 68 people. They all said, I'm all for that. I want to do it. I had one person that was brought to my attention that dissented on it pretty strongly. I never talked to that person. They never got copies of the documents I shared with you. They weren't at the meeting. So it's 68 to 1. That one person just got more exposure than the 68. But I asked them, why don't you voice it going forward? And they all had reason for concern why they don't. And that's the biggest concern to me. I'm a private person. I mean, I've been in Union Township in Clermont County for 20 years. This is the second time that I've spoken in front of this board, last month and this month. I've only spoken in front of commissioners one time. That's not what I do. But again, I'm focused on policy. I just want good local and county government. I think it's getting away from us overall, as a total society, and it's got to start from the local level and move up. I don't think we're going to make much progress if we try to start at the federal level and come on down. That's my point. You guys can do it in terms of what's there. And I think the people who have been on the side of Union Township to pass the fire levies, to pass the police levies, they like the service. They like the service that's provided by Matt's department as well. There's no issue with that. It's just the unencumbered, the unplanned funds, and we ought to live within our means just like these people are. If you read this thing from Phil Graham, I mean, he talks about the inflation rates and so forth. The inflation rate in the last 3 months has been 15%. I don't know too many people who've gotten 15% increase in their wages. I mean, wages have gone up, but when you take the middle income folks have actually lost a lot of ground. They've lost more ground in the last 7 months than what they picked up in the last 4 years. So they're on a downward path. and quite honestly, they've been on a downward path since the 70s. With revaluation of properties, sales taxes, all the other taxes that are involved, fuel taxes, they're getting pinched. I mean, it's going to hit. The crisis is going to come. Might not be this year, but it's going to be next year, the year after that. There's going to be a recession at some point in time. Smart business people, good planners, they anticipate all it. They have strategic plans, and they anticipate both the downturns and the upturns. And they figure out what their capital plans are going to be, what their operating budgets. Hopefully the township has all that, and it should be, again, that should be part of the robust discussion that takes place between the citizens and so forth. So I want to let you know this. I appreciate the feedback in terms of the questions that you had. I'll address those, and again, in terms of this document that I'll give you, I address them much more fully there. I cite everything. And one of the questions that you had, Mr. Was you wanted a formal resolution in terms of what we were talking about. I'd be happy to draft it. I really would. But I think it would be presumptuous on my part. What I proposed was that we rebate all the residential property tax owners for that $5.1 million back in proportion to what they paid. So in other words, we just use an example. Let's say there's $100 million of residential property, and I'm the lucky guy, I own $1 million of it. I should get 1% of that $5.1 million back over the next 2 years back to me. That's what I mean by proportional. So if somebody's got a value of the property, $100,000 against what a total value residential property in Union Township is, that's what they would get a credit against their.
Well, not to interrupt you, but what I was asking for there was not for you to do a resolution, but before it's officially on the agenda, that we have the ideas formulated and put into a formal resolution.
It needs to be flushed out,
Right.
okay? Because my proposal was for residential property owners. And the reason I left out and that includes multifamily owners, that includes apartment buildings. Because we know rents are going up, they're going up faster than inflation. And if you give a rebate back, or excuse me, a credit against the residential property owners, their tax bills are going to go down for the next couple of years, they're not going to go up. You guys have the ability to jawbone too. They shouldn't be passing major rent increases if you're reducing their taxes. It should benefit the renters as much as it benefits the homeowners, is what my point is. Now, my own personal thoughts are that the commercial folks shouldn't get that. Why? Because they've got paycheck protection loans, which have all been forgivable. There's been a number of programs at the federal level that have all been geared towards commercial. But if the board and that public input said all property owners, I'm okay with that. That's a policy decision. And the other thing is commercial folks, dollar for dollar, they can deduct all property taxes from their income, and they're not taxed on it. You and I and the rest of the property owners, with the standard deduction, barely anybody itemizes deductions anymore, so they don't get any credit for it. They pay it, but they don't get a credit. Commercial people do. And again, it doesn't matter whether we're a small businessman or large businessman. The majority of commercial businesses are either LLCs, subchapter S corporations, or partnerships, and all that flows through. It's all pass-through entities. So that's my thought in terms of the commercial side. You had some questions on the rental side. I always was of the opinion that it should apply to all residential properties, whether that's rented or not. But again, the whole thing I think needs to be flushed out. I'm one guy, okay? And I think there's a lot of people that have good ideas and competing ideas, and I think can come to a resolution that makes sense overall. But again, my overall theme is, if we didn't plan for it, we didn't budget it, and we got a windfall, it's really not ours. And when I say ours, I mean the government's. Give it back to the folks. We've got an opportunity, and it shows leadership overall. From a standpoint, again, I'm not into the political thing, but if that were to happen, I think the recognition for Union Township of standing up for the citizens and making a more friendly place. We talked about, there was some discussion last time about how much residential building there is and the lack of single-family building compared to some of the other communities. I think Mr. Wright confirmed those numbers. Well, if you're in favor of tax owners and property owners, if you're reducing taxes and you're showing it, that's a huge incentive to builders. That's a huge incentive to people to move and come into the area as opposed to going to another area. Because taxes are a problem everywhere. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it, but the revaluations and so forth. I can tell you all my property, all my fellow neighbors, they're all reserved people, they're all nice people, professionals, and they're not complainers, is what I'm getting to. But they're all concerned about what's happening with their property values and the taxes. They are. And they feel the pinch. So all these few people that I was alluding to earlier, I'm sure they feel that pinch, and probably much more in terms of what's taking place. So it's not a refund. It's a credit back. In effect, what the federal government has done is they passed a tax increase that nobody got to vote for, and they imposed it on everybody. So every township that got money, the counties got money. So if you take the $40 million from Clermont County and you take the $5.1 million from Union Township, if you did it on population and not property, that's a $900 tax increase per family of four. And it's just it is. You can't change the numbers. And it's going to be much more than that because they got to pay that $900 back, and then when it's time for next tax levy at the local levy, they're going to pay it again. So in effect, you can argue it's very much it's going to be double taxation. Again, the rates have been going up in and of themselves. We talked about revaluation last time. There's going to be a windfall coming from that just from the revaluations. And it's just, I think it's responsible just to, again, let the people make the decision with excess money. One of the questions they had was, should it go all at, it's a federal program. And with a federal program where they're distributing out this money, shouldn't everybody, pays federal taxes or files a federal tax return, shouldn't they get that? And my answer to that is no. And the reason being, there's not a federal program, and I'm real familiar with the tax code, but there's not a federal program that distributes all benefits out equally amongst all the people. I can't think of a one. So the child tax credit, that doesn't go to everybody. The Medicaid program, not everybody can participate. Medicare program, absolutely not. Supplemental nutrition, SNAP, used to be called food stamps. Is that available to everybody? No. I mean, it's not. Rental assistance programs, we're talking about the renters. Do any homeowners get a benefit out of that? No. The moratorium on student loans? No. Renewable energy tax credits. You got to be a homeowner. It's going to be your primary residence. No. The Affordable Care Act? Absolutely not. People call it Obamacare, but it's the Affordable Care Act. Every one of those programs, including deductions for long-term care. Again, folks like us, I mean, if you're paying for a long-term care policy, we're eligible for deduct some of that off our taxes. Your average Joe can't. I mean, is that spreading that all over? Every federal program, and the word's not appropriate, but it discriminates against the various people. They're trying to incentivize different things. I can't think of one where it's applicable at all. Just can't think of a single one, other than maybe the rebates for, I shouldn't call it a rebate, but the stimulus payments that came back out. And even those, very, very considerably based on who you were. Last year, it was $10,000 that if you received any kind of unemployment benefits, you could take it right off your income taxes. No other taxpayer could do that. If they had earned income, they paid on it full amount. Healthcare tax premium payments. If somebody was employed by a company that went bankrupt and the pension benefit guaranteed company covered it, they're eligible for healthcare tax credits. The government picks 67%. They could be 50 years old. The government picks up 67% of the cost of that private policy. No one else gets that. I mean, it's an incredible thing. The federal tax code is ripe with that. Our taxes at Union Township, they come from property taxes. My argument is credit back to property owners, the ones that paid the tax. The other point to keep in mind is 49% of U.S. households pay no federal income tax. It's unbelievable. That's a trend. That's a fact. So majority of people aren't paying federal income tax. They file tax returns and so forth, but with all the other credits and everything else they've got in exempt income, they're just not paying it. I mean, so that the worst position, and you'll see it in here, the worst position you can be in today and going forward is to be a middle-aged, employed, regular worker. That's not a government worker, because government pensions and everything else are all indexed to inflation. Your average Joe and Jane doesn't receive any of those benefits. Those are the ones where the crisis is coming from. That's our neighbors.
Mr. Rudolph, I didn't put you under a time limit, but could you summarize your thoughts?
I will.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll leave this with you. Again, it's much more detailed. What I'd like, what I encourage, is let's have an additional robust conversation. Let's do that. But what I'd say is there needs to be more awareness. We're all about transparency. Let's let the taxpayers know. Send it out in your newspaper. We received $5.1 million in funds. It's unallocated. We'd like to have customer or township resident input. Should we credit this back? Should we spend it? Combination of both? And you guys make the decision as to what you want to do. The billboards that go up for the free concerts and so forth, post that. You know, we're going to have a discussion on $5.1 million. That's real money. Again, that's a significant dollar amount, particularly when we go back. And overwhelming majority of people can't even cover a $400 unexpected expense. So I think we got some great things. Again, from a leadership standpoint, I want to close with this. If that were to happen, I think that would spread all over the state, all over the country. I think you'd be on national news. I think you'd be on Tucker Carlson tonight because people resent that unelected. They call it a benefit, but it's a tax increase. Everybody's going to pay for it going forward. If that happened, and it shows the conservative principles coming back, and we are for limited government, not no government, but pay for all the necessary services. Again, we got great services. People want it. They've got it. But anything over and above that, we should do zero-based budgeting. I mean, that's what businesses, successful businesses do. But anything above that, let's keep it as low as we can. Let's make this attractive. Let's make it where people don't, you know, senior citizens and the rest of those folks, we just talked about provisional living. Now, I don't know how many of those people will be paying township taxes. Indirectly, they will. But we should consider all that. So I think it needs to be awareness. I think in the interest of transparency, we should communicate that to folks. And again, let's have those discussions. And it's a policy thing. Let's go from there. I'll do the same thing with the county. Okay? I realize when somebody gets a windfall of funds, just like a 18-year-old child, somebody unexpectedly dies, and they didn't even know the guy, but they got a slug of funds. They want to spend it. You know, I mean, 3 out of 4 want to spend it. The other one wants to sit on it, invest it, do whatever. But a lot of it's wasted. I've witnessed that. I've seen it. Let's not do that as a government. We're bigger than that. And I'm not saying it's all wasted, but again, I think people making their own decisions, and that's what we're all about, making their own decisions, taking self-responsibility. They can spend their money in a way that makes sense for them and not have somebody play daddy for them and spend the money for them. And then they're caught in a crunch. Because that crunch, it is coming. I mean, it's going to come. So what I'll do is I'll leave a copy, if this is okay with you, I'll approach Bench, leave a copy of this. This will take 5 minutes to read, but hopefully it'll take hours of contemplation.
If you can give Mr. Campbell a copy of what you have, and then we'll distribute.
Oh, I got copies for all of you, so
Oh, okay.
okay. And so I'll leave you be and let other people speak. I was with an older woman this morning, and when she broke, she made a comment to me that I thought was pretty witty. When we left, she said, "I'll do something for you that the devil won't do." And I'll leave you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolph.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, I appreciate it.
While Mr. Rudolph gathers his things there, do you mind if I take 30 seconds?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rudolph.
You're welcome.
One of the first things I did when seeing the ARP funds coming was get some training on it, ask Mr. Wright to do that as well. And one, what that looking at is the eligibility of the funding, but then also one of the key things I want to look at is what's the expiration date on the funding, and it's December 31st, 2024 that it needs to be obligated, and it's a later date for actual expense to occur. So I think the real benefit there is there's not a time crunch, and there's time to basically take over, some steps over these hurdles that Mr. Rudolph's presenting, because another piece of information, the American National Election Survey 2020 put out that 83% of all voters think government is for big interest, and 65% of all people think government is corrupt. You're automatically up against that, basically as a survey stat. So the only thing that can take positive steps forward in rebuilding that trust with the community is by showing that there's a process, having what he's talking about, the transparency, communication on it. You know, so when we identify a problem, we have a policy, we have the politics, and when, you know, when that problem, that policy, and politics all intersect like a Venn diagram, that's kind of the solution in which we can move forward on. So I think, in closing on that, as Mr. Thomas is stepping up here, I would just be in the position, I already see that it's in Fund 50, so it's already, I believe, protected where it's at in Fund 50, and since it doesn't expire till 2024, I'd say it's something that's going to take a cycle of some time, and it's probably best that here in the next 3, 4, 5 months that we're engaging or hearing from the community, and that, you know, that may be something even after the holidays. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wonder.
Bill Thomas, Dorjean Lane,
Your actual address?
838 Dorjean Lane.
Thank you.
I'm going to start off, I'm going to try to brief this because I know it's late. I'm going to start off a little different. So, Mr. Geis, I had a conversation with somebody you've worked with for years today. Even though my impression is a little different, I do want to be a little transparent here. She spoke very highly of you, said you have great integrity. She didn't have a bad thing to say. Said no backroom deals, everything opposite of my impression. So I wanted to put it on the record because I don't want to have a conversation with somebody and not be transparent about it, that was a conversation I had. As I'm learning more about your involvement with other townships, you are employed with Union Township full-time, draw a full-time salary. You also work in Fairfield Township at a rate of $100 an hour. I'm trying to get a log of those hours to find out how much time, because it seems very difficult to me how you could hold a full-time job here and time consulting elsewhere, but maybe you work that many hours a week. I don't think I could do full-time and hold on a second job, but I at least wanted to give that information out before I go into what I'm going to go into tonight in full transparency. I did get a chance to meet with Dan Romano, the West Clermont treasurer, yesterday, and I went into some great detail about how the school bonds have been paid. As many folks will remember, West Clermont, the new building, was, no increase to taxes. The building is massive. It's a $99 million bond, and running through the Port Authority. What I learned was, they had some expectations of selling off the Glen Estee property to you guys, I think at the rate of $1 or whatever it was, and then you guys were going to work on developing that and then apply TIF money to backset it. And I do have out of that Port Authority book, I have a rolling TIF schedule. But what I have all the U.S. bank invoices that the school district has been paying. So what I understand is there's this thing called inside millage, and West Clermont's 3.2%. 0.5% goes to the OFCC for OFCC-funded buildings, which leaves 2.7%, which equates to about $6 million per year. So that inside millage originally used to be funded into the general fund for the school district, which actually helped with the operations, because that's where the operations is in that general fund. What they did, and the school board years ago made a vote to take that $6.6 million and move it into a permanent building fund. Well, what happens when you do that is that $6 million, that's no longer supplementing the operations of the school. That's going into this building fund. Well, that fund is what's paying the bill on this bond. It's a budget unit 003, and I've calculated to date, they have paid out $2.1 million twice a year since 2016. The first payment was on 12/10/15 for $712,000. Now you might be saying, well, that's all school-related stuff. What's that have to do with us? Well, it has a lot to do with you, because one of the expectations was that money of the Glen Estee property is going to generate revenue. So based on this fee schedule that was projected, I will say the proper term, since it wasn't committed. These were projections. $503,000 was supposed to go to fund this in 2019. The total that was given was zero. 2020, $850,616 was supposed to go to that fund. Zero money was given to the district. And into this year, 2021, projected $1.234 million was supposed to go. To date, $0. And I don't know who you would expect would work, but I know where I would work. If my projections were 100% off 3 years in a row, I'd be fired, point blank. And I don't understand how we can sit and say that there's no tax increase to the residents when last year we put a bond levy, operations levy on the, to go to ballot, and the residents granted it under the expectation that that money is to run the operations of the school. Well, that's true, but, it kind of was back-ended where the school is funding the bond through that redirecting the funds through that other permanent building fund. So the township has not given the school district what they expected for the last 3 years. I asked Dan Romano point blank, have you gotten any money from the township on these expected rolling TIFs? And his answer was no. Because I said I'm going to say that at the trustee meeting. So if it's incorrect, you guys can meet with him. But that's what I have for that. So $2.1 million twice a year. Next year, we're supposed to get 1.5, and then in 2024, it's supposed to be $2 million, and maxed out at $2.7 million in 2030. My question is, if this stuff goes underdeveloped or late or delayed, or these projections are way off, who's going to cover it? They're going to just pull some more money out of the operations? If the township's not making good on that money, the residents are the ones that are hurting. To say that that levy that was passed last year had nothing to do with the Glen Estee School is false, and it's a lie. Point blank a lie. And I've got the documentation to prove it if anybody wants to see it. I've got the ledger balance right here that has that account 003 fund that shows what the beginning balance was, what the ending balance was, and it shows $6,196 this year to date. So I know that in the last meeting we talked about the ransomware attack and it not being publicized, and all of a sudden all the emails are magically gone in the township because they're quote-unquote encrypted. So we've lost all of our records that way. Now we find out that this month we've uncovered that, the township hasn't been kicking in what they projected to the district that they would. I mean, at what point do you like I said, Ken, I understand people you work with love you, but this stuff keeps coming up, and I'm going to keep digging, and it's not going to stop. I'm going to get more and more information. I'm going to dig into CUC. I'm going to dig into Fairfield Township, and more and more of this stuff's going to keep coming up, and, your friend keeps ignoring it while he's suing Pierce and suing other townships, and I do refer to him as your friend because, you guys had a meeting back in February 21st of 2020, after Jeff Mancini questioned the TIF money as it relates to the schools in a meeting. And if I remember correctly, Mr. Logue, you were asked to get a TIF communications plan. You haven't provided that yet. I would love to see it. But we don't have a TIF communications plan. I'm almost certain that you committed that. So I would love to see that TIF communications plan, if you could provide that to us to see, because people don't understand where this is going, how that's working. So I would like to follow up on that. But I would also like to know about the resident that informed me of Mr. Geis attending this meeting at Mr. Hicks's house. And then all of a sudden, on February 23rd, there's a big post out there about how TIFs and JEDs and, how they're great and you've done a great job. And all this information that we were supposed to get from Mr. Logue ends up on this page. So does Mr. Hicks work for the township? Because I don't know why these lines of communication, why they keep going there. You bring up the Eastgate Mall thing earlier tonight, but there was a post out there on Eastgate Mall. It was like, you said the people are talking about it. Are the people talking about it, or is this guy talking about it? At what point do we quit working with this person and start listening to the residents? And to say you don't have any ties to him, you gave him $1,000. I went through all your campaign donations, $100 to Mr. Becker twice, $500 to DeWine Houston for Ohio back in 17, David Yost, Pat DeWine's campaign. All of them were under like $500, but $1,000 went to Mr. Hicks in the auditor's race. To tell me you don't have a relationship with somebody that you gave, twice as much to, here's paper, twice as much to their campaign through PayPal, it's wrong. Sorry, it's wrong. And these ties keep coming up. So I'm going to rest on that, and I'm going to finish with this. Mr. McGraw, last month, you put on Facebook, I'm going to read it. Safety, our opposition, I don't know who R is. I mean, you're running for trustee, but last I checked, but you wrote our opposition wants to defund the 911 call center, remove key personnel, and defund our police. I support our safety services, and I stand for funding our police, fire, EMS, and 911 communications. You used the word defund our police. I put in a records request. I'm not going to go through all the comments, but you know who you were talking about because you admitted it here to Rob Wing when he countered you and said that was a lie. He called you out on it. I put in a records request for the 911 Communications Center because I was talking to the county to see could the township save money if what was the spend there versus the spend here. Just looking at it, nobody's defunding. You know who's defunding the police? Your friend, the one that you keep posting on the website, his dog, watchdog site. That's the one defunding the police. He's defunded Amelia's police department. Amelia now falls under the sheriff's department, Pierce. He's defunded Newtonsville. I have not defunded any police department, and I called you on the phone, and you still argued saying, well, Bill, I look at it as defunding the police. No, I wanted to look at it from a cost perspective analysis on how much it costs to run communications here and how much it costs to run communications here, because I talked to Jamie and Mike both in front of Walmart when they had the night out. I asked them, you guys happy? Yeah, they're fine with it. The communications are fine. No complaints. So which is it? A communications center works for Miami Township. It works for the city of Milford. It could work for Union Township, but I never once said we have to do it. Looking at it is not defunding the police. I don't appreciate it. And Bob, I don't appreciate the thumbs up, because when you put a thumbs up on a post, guess what? You're acknowledging the lie. And it was a lie. It's slander, it's libel, and you might be charged for it, John, because I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to let it rest. You should have never posted a lie against a resident. You are a standing trustee. It's unacceptable, and I will not tolerate it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Thomas, just want to point out to you, we just had a case tonight for Provision Living. They already have a project on the Glen Estee property that will start paying taxes next year. And that money will start flowing next year from the Provision Living. And then they have a new proposal tonight that those two together will almost pay our entire obligation that we made to West Clermont. And the rest of the Glen Estee property would be divided like in a normal way. So, how the school does their funding, we never said we were paying 100% of the high school cost. Our obligation goes up to $2 million a year from TIF, from the Glen Estee property, and it's a 30-year TIF, so it's somewhere around $60 million. So the rest of it was going to be paid for by the schools, and that's your question for them on how they pay their portion of it. But the Provision Living is now built, the villas are built, and they'll start paying taxes on that property next year. So just want to point that out to you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? Yes, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Brenda Vega, 54 Apple Lane, Union Township. I'm the Swan lady. I take care of the swans. They're all doing fine. Hi, y'all. Good evening, gentlemen. My petition is quite simple. All I'm asking for is 2 signs. 2 of these. We got one at Mount Moriah. We need one at Veterans and one at TQL. Just because of I think that the cost of just putting up 2 more signs.
I'm sorry, what does the sign say? I can't.
It says absolutely no fishing. Call the police if you see anyone fishing in the pond. Union Township Police, 752-2030. It's against the rules and hazardous to the swans who will try to eat the bait and get the hook stuck in their throats. As at Mount Moriah, that's already occurred, and the veterinary bills, and also the cost that we've had, counties put out, or township, in the parks to replace a couple of ones that were killed, is much greater, in my opinion, than just putting up 2 more signs. It would be, just make it easy. I think there shouldn't be any, I've had, even with the shirts, thank you so much for providing me with some sort of, I've been attacked multiple times at Veterans Park because of the fishing. And people, the first thing they say to me are, where are the signs? And I can't answer that because there are no fishing, there's no signs to back me up. So that's all I'm asking for is backup. No big deal, okay? So you all think about it, let me know, whatever. But sorry I flew out of here earlier, I had to go feed. I beat the geese by predicting their times of going and nesting at night. So I had to go feed the ponds, that's why I took off. That was the only reason, so I appreciate you guys, So, but the swans are doing fine, okay? So if you all could, this one's at Mount Moriah, and if we could please, there's nothing to catch at Veterans, and there's one fella that goes there and fishes and takes what he catches home. It's like ridiculous. So, and I'm just kind of tired of the pushback from, the angry people. I mean, I know everybody's upset, been on lockdown and not been able to get out of their homes, and I think people are a little more crazy now than they were before, to be honest with you, but anyhow, that's just my personal opinion. But, yeah, it kind of makes me unsettling when I don't have anything to say, well, oh, there's the sign there, you should read that. And it would give an incentive to other people in the parks to also support, and make sure the swans are safe. Because, like I say, the costs to replace one or to have them worked on by a veterinarian far outweighs the cost of just putting up 2 more signs, guys.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Your ears might have been burning earlier. I was at Veterans Park with our Chamber of Commerce and talking with President Joy Lytle.
Yeah.
So if everyone here doesn't know, Brenda's our Salute to Leaders awardee. So that was really great to get you in for that in April and make that happen.
I'm very humbled. I was
And she
very
loves
honored.
the swans too. She was talking about
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah, they're my family.
And her daughter helps out too.
Yeah, my
Yes.
daughter too. Yeah, you guys, it was nice to see you at the Oasis. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak tonight? Okay.
John?
Oh, yeah, go
Trustee
ahead.
McGraw, before we go to
Yes.
those closing remarks, Mr. Geis, did you get an update? Earlier, I asked if there was a possibility that Mr. Barbier was going to be able to look at that resolution while we were here, and I think you received a response, but
Mr. Geis?
I did. At the request of Mr. Logue, Mr. Barbier did review that. He said he did review it and approve it as to form. He had no knowledge or any comment on the transaction,
Okay.
but he approved the resolution as to form.
Did you want to make a motion?
is that something, Trustee McGee, is that something?
Fine, as long as our legal counsel has looked at it and gives us approval for it. I'm okay with it.
Okay, and no reservations, staff involved on that? Okay.
Just number it.
2021-19 would be the resolution number.
Patiently sat there all meeting. Definitely appreciate that, thank you. Your administrator there being able to push that forward to the law director real quick, right? I mean, that's some service.
Mr. Campbell, that number again?
2021-19.
Thank you. So based on the new information regarding the law director's approval, is there someone who wants to make a motion regarding the Cardinal Land Conservancy presentation and resolution? We'll be adopting resolution 2021-19.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. McGraw?
Yes,
Motion carries.
all right.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
That's all Mr. Geis and Mr. Barbier. I mean, there, we'll get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. All right, so a few upcoming events I just want to announce real quick. The next board meeting of the trustees, we don't need our special meeting now, so, will be September 9th, 2021. Our August 2nd meeting in August has been canceled. The township administrations will be closed on Monday, September 6th, in observance of Labor Day, so in advance of that, happy Labor Day to everybody. Please be safe and have a good weekend. Meeting room reservations and gym reservations are now available. Check the website for more information. Union Township Concert Series continues. Shakespeare in the Park will be this Saturday, August 14th at 7 p.m. back in the amphitheater right behind us here. That's something brand new. We've never done Shakespeare before, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout. Then we go back to music. On August 21st, we have a Strange Love, a local band, at 8 p.m. Then September 11th, kind of interesting that it happens to be in observance of the 9/11 day. The Sycamore Community Band will be playing here. They'll also start at 7 p.m. Then this is an event, if you've never been to it, I highly suggest you show up. It's the Lantern Lighting event at Mount Moriah Cemetery. It's Saturday, September 18th. It'll be from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Basically what happens is you have a chance you can bring photographs. You don't have to bring photographs, but you have an opportunity to make your own lantern. The service department has these wooden structures, and they'll give you paper and stuff to work with, and you can put your own pictures on them. But basically, you can customize your own lantern for your own family members that have passed, and they don't have to be buried at Mount Moriah. They could, be family members from anywhere, but it's a chance to honor your family members, and there's a dinner and a nice presentation of taps, and then all the lanterns are released out onto the lake, and it's a really nice ceremony. So our cemetery and service department put that on. It's a tremendous event. And then the Union Township End of Summer Celebration will be a fireworks event Saturday, September 25th at 8:30 p.m. There'll be lots of events all day long. I believe we're still having the touch truck. Is that correct, Chief Dimling, as far as you know? Noon to 2. So if you got especially little kids who want to see interesting vehicles, whether they be fire trucks, police cars, the special response team usually comes. But there's also other vehicles, like from our service department, and all kinds of stuff that kids really like. So that'll be Jungle Gyms during the daytime, and also Crossroads Church and Jungle Gyms will be having their own events that day too. So it'll be quite an event. And with the RJ Cinema, is their renovations coming along, the outdoor entertainment area. They've got the artificial turf down now, and they're going to build a music venue, outdoor tables. If you've never been to RJ Cinemas, it's a tremendous place. But this will be an outdoor venue where you can go sit outside and enjoy yourself. But also the other restaurants close by to there, like La Rosa's and Rincon Mexicano, are also using the same area. So it's a chance you can eat, order your meal and eat outside and enjoy the music. So, but anyway, that'll be September 25th for the fireworks, so don't miss that. Gentlemen, is there anything else I might have missed?
Yeah, Chief Bigley head of the start of the Citizens Police Academy
This month, sorry.
on the 17th, right? Is there any openings yet? Or still?
Maybe one or two.
One or two openings, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've never done the Citizens Police Committee, I always suggest people who've actually complained to me about the police, I said, that's a great opportunity to do that and learn about our police and get to meet them firsthand. So, but if you're not sure how the police department works and you'd like to learn more about what policemen go through, it's a great opportunity. And then the people who graduate from that go on to assist our police department in events, and they're a great organization. It's a great fellowship and organization. Anything else?
Well, you brought it up, and I was happy to hear you mention that about RJ Cinemas and Rincon. Last summer with COVID, I spent some time dialing owners and managers, throughout the community to see how people were doing, the businesses. And one of RJ's was one of them. Said, I really wish we could have an outdoor patio for you guys, be able to, to have that type of opening at that time when they were constricted. So really great. I think that's gonna be a great venue and added benefit to Jungle Gyms right there. So just really great. So anyway, thank you for bringing it up, Mr. McGraw.
And they'll have ice skating in the wintertime.
Ice skating in the winter, which is a huge hit.
So expect Melvin out here to be ice skating. I might pass this year. Anything else, gentlemen?
I think you need to stay away from the water.
Yeah. Frozen or otherwise, right?
I'd hate to see what the Frozen would do.
All right. If there is nothing else, gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Logue,
Yes.
Mr. McGraw.
Yes.
We're adjourned at 9:46 PM.
Thank you for your patience. It was a long meeting, a lot of stuff. We appreciate everybody who came out and was at the meeting tonight, and everybody watching at home. Thank you.